All right, welcome back to Nerds by Screenlight. My name is Aaron.
I'm Phil.
I'm Vicki.
And I'm Zoe.
And we, as referenced at the beginning of the Twister episode, there are 2 lost episodes in which we, the editing monsters and gremlins, got into the, I don't know what. Well, actually, we know what happened. So on the computer we use for the studio computer, it's a reconditioned computer I bought from a local joint down in Denver. It's a nice computer. It's solid. But what we found out is that if I open up an internet browser or do anything else other than record, it will shift it into being broken. And so
They sound like aliens underwater.
it's really rough. And I had been tempted to let it ride and just let people know, hey, this is a hot mess. If you can hang and listen to the whole thing, because there was some really good stuff in there. I was really, really upset about the whole thing.
Yeah.
But unfortunately, I just was like, nope, this is too much. No one's gonna be able to listen to this. I can't listen to it more than 5 minutes before I'm like, I'm done. I don't want to do this anymore. Don't make me do it. So we have 2 movies that we have to speed run through.
Yeah.
What was our first one? Weird Science.
Weird Science.
Okay. So, Weird Science. What were your initial? I guess we'll go with initial impressions. Like when you first watched it, were you just like, "What is happening?"
That was my first impression.
Yeah. So Weird Science. I think a lot of nostalgia. Like
It's very nostalgic.
you think, "Oh, I remember that movie." You actually really don't remember that movie
Yeah.
because you're like, "Oh my gosh, there's so much inappropriate things happening in this film." Now you have to keep in mind. I think. Was it this one or the other one that was John Hughes' first movie?
I think it's this one.
Yes.
So Weird Science was his first one, and the other one we watched was
16
16
Candles.
Okay.
Yeah.
So John Hughes' first movie was Weird Science, then 16 Candles, and on from there. So yeah, Weird Science. The idea behind it is these 2 teenage boys decide they need a girlfriend, and they use one of their friends' supercomputer, and use a whole bunch of scanning stuff in there. Albert Einstein's image goes into the scanner. All these beautiful women go in there, and it turns that it gives you the Weird Science girl, and it's a riotous ride of insanity.
Yeah.
What is
It's a little raunchy.
little bit, yeah, surprisingly so. Now, mind you, we all laughed throughout the whole movie for the
Yeah.
most part. There's some moments where you're just like, okay,
Yeah, not in today.
no,
You just don't.
Nope.
The nostalgia, like, you forget about all those other things.
yeah, you forget about the moments where you're just like, did that really happen on
Yeah.
screen? So there's some moments where like. Yeah, there's some words that are used, some insults, some statements. Again, we're talking 80s, and these words were regularly trafficked and regularly used.
And that's to be said for all these, all
Yes.
3 of these movies.
Yeah.
All the movies we're talking about, very John Hughes. We read a letter, which of course got eaten up in the editing process. We'll see if I can read that later.
Right.
And it talked about how John Hughes wrote these movies and directed these movies for kids, for high school students who were dealing with a lot of junk. And he intentionally wrote the characters the way he did and wrote the dialogue the way he did because it was real. Like, yes, those words are offensive in 2024, but in 1980s, that was the regular vernacular. That was those words were in use. And
I would say they were in use all the way up until early 2000s.
I agree.
yeah, I agree with that one. Yeah, and it's disappointing, obviously, because I grew up in that time, and we would use that. I never dropped the F particular word. I probably used the R word at some point.
Yeah.
But that was also like that was just your reflex, like, oh, that's R-tarded, like you would. That was your just, and it was not meant as a pejorative. It was just meant as like it's like when you say heck or you like oh my gosh and like it just becomes instinct. It's just
Oh,
like
yeah.
a reflex.
Yeah.
Is how you say things. Obviously we've grown up a lot more than we were when we were 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, and we've learned a lot from that. Okay, so what is the most absurd moment for you from Weird
Most
Science?
Absurd is hard. I keep thinking about their hats. I'm sorry. Why?
So what?
Oh, the bras on the head?
Yeah.
Yes.
So what
Oh.
Vicki is referencing is when they're doing their experiment and to try and bring this woman into being, they've put bras on their heads.
And then they redo the experiment, and it happens again.
Yeah, and so the question of like, where are they getting these bras? How is this? Are these whose drawers are they reading?
I
What
don't
is
know if I
going
wanna
on here?
know.
There's a lot of questions that are never answered in the
Is that
movie.
a plot hole, maybe?
No, I think it's just John Hughes wanting you to think about it and be like, well, where did they come from? And having to go down that rabbit hole and go, oh, dear Lord, no, I don't want to know. But that's the beauty of a lot of John Hughes movies is there's questions you just go like, okay, if we pull this string, where's it going to end up? And the answer is, I don't know if we want to go there.
I mean, there's a lot of absurdity, but that's just the one that I can't forget about.
Well, and it's an image. Like, it's a very iconic image with those two as they're, like, doing their thing.
There's actually a music video. It's by Classified and B.O.B.
Okay.
I can't remember the name of it, but if you search them,
Yeah.
the whole intro schematic is them doing the weird science experiment.
Okay.
And they're wearing bras on their head. And
So even
Like-
till this day, it's still like a
yeah,
reference.
it's still,
Yeah, it absolutely is. That's hilarious.
I would have to probably say it's like a tie between the missile just coming up through the house and what was his name? Was it Chet?
Chet. Yeah.
Oh, the brother?
Yeah, when he was a big pile of poop.
yeah.
By the way, I did not realize until later that's what he was.
Yeah.
Yeah, I thought he was like a little frogman or something.
I know, that's what I thought too, or
Nope,
like a troll.
he's a pile of poop.
Yeah.
So what we're referencing is one of our lead characters' brothers, an absolute jerk, Bill
Yeah.
Paxton.
Paxton.
I know.
in a classic role.
I can't unsee it now.
Yeah, it's kind of fantastic, and he's just this bro, like total college bro who's home from school on break or something, and he just is like, I'm gonna take over the house, and you're gonna do what I say. You got to give me money to shut me up, or I'm gonna tell mom and dad. And so he constantly tortures our hero until finally the weird science created woman turns on him, uses her magic to turn him into a giant pile of poo, and then he swears, "Oh, I'll never do it again. I'll never do it again."
And I love that he doesn't turn back instantly.
Yeah, it takes time. It takes
Has
time.
to sit in himself
Yeah, for a little
and
bit.
think about what he's done.
Yeah, and then the other thing you're referencing is the missile that comes through the floor.
Yes.
And the missile, is it because it's tied to, because they didn't hook up the Barbie, they hooked it up to like a magazine with a
Yeah.
missile or something?
Yeah.
Yeah, they're like, well,
Whoops.
what did you forget to do? We forgot to hook it up to the Barbie. And then they look where they hook it up, and they've hooked it up to a Time magazine cover of a nuclear missile. And so all of a sudden, through the floorboard and in through the roof comes a full-size nuclear missile. And it's hilarious.
It is.
And fantastic. The most absurd moment, I think. That's probably one of the more absurd ones. Phil, did you say yours?
There's so many. Probably like when they're doing the
Yeah.
experiments.
Yeah.
Everything is just going weird.
Yeah.
Like pictures come to life.
Oh,
Yeah,
yeah.
All kinds of stuff happens.
The
Also-
piano thing being tossed in the air.
yeah, like it's weird.
It's a weird one. It's so weird science.
Yeah.
I think
We got to mention the road crew, the bikers.
Oh yeah, so that, I think that does take the cake for me. It's the end. So in the end, what she's trying to do is she's trying to get them to have courage and to stand up for themselves and all these kinds of things. And so she's throwing everything at them, and they're just not getting it. And so this road crew, basically from Mad Max Thunderdome, shows
Yeah.
up, and they are all kinds of awful, and they're threatening people, they're trying to kill people, and they're like, "Well, you got to tell us to leave." And the idea, as an audience member, you go, "Okay, all they need to do is tell them to leave."
Yeah.
But they take so long to get there.
Well, they hide in a closet.
They
They're
hide in
like,
a
"Nope,
closet. They
nope,
pull them
I'm
out of the
not."
closet, and so they finally stand up for themselves. And it's
Yeah, well, what it took is that they went after the girls.
Yeah,
liked,
they were gonna
and
threaten the
that
girls
to
they
them
liked.
was like,
yeah,
no,
too much. So yeah, it was. It's a wild movie.
so wild.
Be ready for some inappropriate kind of things that are going to happen.
Yeah,
And
don't
if-
say you weren't warned about the bras in the head.
Yeah, it's I mean it's the 80s, so
Yeah.
but compared to like when we talked about this on the episode that was the Lost episode, compared to like the 90s and 2000s raunchy teen comedies, this is very tame. So tame, like not even approaching how awful and how unpleasant a lot of those 90s comedies
And I mean, there are definitely shows today that are
Oh yeah.
pretty bad, but they're bad in a different way.
Right.
Yes.
The comedy here, it's weird because you have to adjust your brain for 1980s because as we talked about, like there is almost a level of parody and satire in a lot of what we see in this movie.
Yeah, I feel like this is a good movie. If you are nervous about, if you have a teenager
Right.
that you're like, oh, they're thinking about dating a high school boy, have them watch this movie. Watch it with them. Be like, are you sure you want to date a freshman?
Right.
The answer is no.
Yeah.
Well, you
movie
learned that in
explains why.
16 Candles too.
Yes.
Yeah. So it's
Don't date freshmen.
it's a fascinating little film. I will probably go back and watch it a couple times in my life. You have to go in knowing you're going to be surprised and probably a little shocked. But again, you have to remember, John Hughes directed this thing and wrote it, So everything you see on screen, he crafted for a purpose and for a reason. This isn't just intended. So when you watch it, think about the parody, think about the satire, think about the absurdity of what's happening. It's not because he's promoting the ideas within those scenes. This is meant to be like, whoa, that's really weird and strange, and there's supposed to be humor in that. So yeah, weird science. What a weird, wonderful little movie.
Also, I had totally forgotten that Robert Downey Jr. was in it, so that's another fun little.
Yeah,
Super young.
So yeah, Robert Downey Jr. is one of the bad guys in this movie, and they end up taking part in the experiment to try and get their own girlfriend or something.
Even though they already had.
Is it weird to say that I prefer him older, just because maybe it's because I'm used to it?
I'll tell you a little bit more about that later.
Okay. We'll get it.
Just about his personal life, because like him as an actor in the 80s is different than him now.
Yeah, and so what she's referring to is Robert Downey Jr. went through a lot of drug issues, a lot of addiction issues. Dude was not clean for the better part of the 80s and 90s.
Yeah.
He was a train wreck. He turned his life around, I think, around Iron Man.
Yes.
That's when things kicked off.
See, that's when I think of.
Right.
Totally.
That's where
Yes.
I'm like,
Because the Robert Downey Jr. we had before that, I mean, he was getting arrested. He was all over the tabloids.
Really bad.
Dude's reputation was not great. He was not getting cast. And so he finally, I think, realized and kind of cleaned up his act and got himself back on the road to recovery and got a sober lifestyle, as far as I know. And so, yeah, if you can track that arc from Iron Man to now when he's been announced as Dr. Von Doom in the next Marvel movie. Like, the dude has a career because he got himself right.
And his whole presence is different.
Yes.
Like, just to be honest, he probably was under the influence in this movie. And you can tell, I mean, you just can.
Yeah.
He's different in the face and his
Yeah.
eyes. And
Yeah.
so that there's a reason for that, just kind of instinctually being like, I don't like this very
Yeah.
much.
Yeah, and you have to remember a lot of those 80s movies, and I wouldn't say John Hughes specifically, but a lot of those 80s movies, actors were not in a great place. They were not doing what they should be doing. They were doing things they shouldn't. And so that kind of, I mean, we talk about a lot of the actors who died in those years. I mean, John Belushi he died by addiction. A lot of those guys, their lives were cut short because of that cycle that was so popular and so a part of just what it was.
I think it's also like a lot of like pressure to perform well, like consistent, like over and
Yeah.
over, and like I don't know.
Well, you talk about Chris Farley, like Chris
Yeah.
Farley's whole situation.
Yeah.
You talk about Robin Williams' situation. You talk about a lot of those stars that that were beloved and are still beloved today. I mean, when we lost Robin Williams, the mourning and sadness was across
Yeah.
all generations. It wasn't just like, oh, the boomers are sad. No, it's everybody
Everyone.
was
Well,
sad.
because of the impact he had.
Well, he had movies from the start to from
Right,
across
like
a
Aladdin.
multiple generations of
Fine.
people had been exposed to Robin Williams, and it was just like that collective loss was like, man, this really sucks. So yeah, go into Weird Science, be very ready to be kind of like whoa, but embrace the weirdness. And accept that there are some lines and some statements and some storylines that you're going to be just like, wait, what? I mean, Anthony Michael Hall goes full into a speakeasy.
He totally brings that back in Breakfast Club.
Yeah, he does.
I got really excited. I'm like, there it is.
Yeah.
For Weird Science.
So it's
when we get to Breakfast Club, I'll talk about it. But like during that scene when he's doing that, I'm like, oh, he's done this before,
right.
Like,
Yeah. So Anthony Michael. So all of our actors kind of cross over. All right. So that's Weird Science. It was the one I don't think we enjoyed it as much as we enjoyed
Agreed.
16
no,
Candles.
I gave it an 8, which
Yeah.
is what I gave 16 Candles. But
Yeah.
I want to go back and give it a 7
Okay.
because I enjoyed 16 Candles more.
Yeah, it's interesting
Agreed.
how you compare your movies and you go, wow, this was actually like for me when we reviewed Twister, we had seen Twisters,
Right.
And I think I said this in the podcast. I like Twister a heck of a lot more than Twisters.
Yeah.
Because there's heart in that movie. I mean, you've got Philip Seymour Hoffman, Helen Hunt, Bill Paxton, and you've got the incredible amount of actors behind them.
Ariel was.
Yeah, Carrie. Like it's just some really, and it's more of a group kind of effort versus in Twisters. It's very much just like 2 or 3 characters, and you have some people in
they're
the background.
great.
Yeah, they
it's
are.
a fantastic
Yeah,
movie.
it's a great
Highly
movie.
recommend.
But there's just something missing with that whole like, okay, we needed more. We needed more kind of character actors.
Yeah,
and,
That's so true.
And yeah, it was great. It was a good movie. You know.
You want to feel like invested.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
in Twister, you are in Twister. Yeah, in Twister, you're invested.
You are.
Like you are in rocking and rolling from the start, and it doesn't stop. It doesn't hurt the movie that you've got incredible actors like Helen Hunt and Bill Paxton, whose chemistry is insane. That is off the charts. Anyway, we're getting off topic because I love that movie so much.
Back to 16
All right,
Candles.
let us get into 16 Candles. Molly Ringwald is our heroine, our lead actress.
Totally different vibe than Breakfast Club.
Yep, absolutely. She's quiet. She's the nerd.
Yep.
She doesn't really. Her family knows her. She kind of feels ignored a little bit. They forgot her birthday,
Yeah.
and that's what starts us off.
That's literally the description of the movie when
Yeah.
you look it up online.
Family forgets daughter's
Girl's
birthday.
And I don't know if I would call her a nerd in this film. I think I would call her like maybe a little wallflower-ish. She's just kind of, she doesn't stand out.
Okay,
That's fair.
that's fair.
Like,
She's
she's
a
not
sophomore.
popular. She's not super nerdy.
Okay, yeah.
Now, what's his face that like comes on to her hard on the bus? That's
Anthony
a nerd.
Michael Hall. What I love about this is we've gotten 3 kind of appearances of him. Now there's more of him obviously in more movies than we probably need to investigate. But
Yes.
he is. Like when we went from Weird Science to 16 Candles, I'm like, this guy's got range. He is wacky and weird, but he
You
has
see
got
more of it in the Breakfast Club.
I agree.
Yeah.
Dude,
I
guy
think
can
that's the
act.
best one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. There are pages on Breakfast Club. So the idea here is that she's her birthday was forgotten. She's mad. She's the bus scene with
She's 16.
Yeah,
That's
she's
a big
16.
birthday.
It's a big birthday. She goes to school. Blah blah blah.
She wants the guy.
She wants the guy who he doesn't even know she exists.
And he's taken.
And he's taken by a girl we don't really like because she's kind of possessive and jerky.
But he picks up her note that professes her love, and then he knows.
So this is
and he's
so,
like, who is this girl? She's kind of cute.
Well, so this scene sent Zoe for several trips.
Yeah.
So apparently she's working on homework for a class for somebody else.
Yes.
And it asks some pretty intimate questions like, have you had relations?
Wildly inappropriate.
Wildly inappropriate.
With who?
With
Hey,
who?
if you haven't, who
And-
would you want to?
Yeah,
with?
who do you want to have it with? And it's so she's filling it out for her friend, but then she fills it out for herself with the boy. It's Jake Ryan, not Jack Ryan, but Jake Ryan. And then her friend is behind her, but her friend is sleeping. So when she passes the note and drops it,
Yep.
her friend's not awake enough. So guess who gets the note? Jake Ryan. Paws it with his foot.
Why would you do that?
And then looks
It
at
still
it
bothers
and
me.
kind of go, well, now obviously her friend fell asleep just because, but what that does is that gives him the knowledge that she likes him, so that starts our parallel plot train. So then we're able, as we as viewers go, game on, let's go.
Because he doesn't want to be like the partying jock anymore. He
Right.
wants like a real relationship and
Yeah.
someone that's not going to use him and destroy
Just
his home.
to
And,
have a party.
yeah.
Right. He does. You kind of his apathy kind of accelerates throughout the movie as he just kind of looks around and goes, "What am I doing here? What is the point of all of this? What's the return on investment to this madness? There is none."
Because he's like like probably the rich kid, and everyone
Right.
wants to take advantage of that. And,
Yep.
Yeah.
He's the high school quarterback and all the things. So, what is your favorite scene or favorite stuff from 16 Candles?
I don't know if it's my favorite, but you know when they all go in the bathroom and they have to paint again.
All right. So what Vicki is alluding to
my list.
is there's a
That's too
plot
much.
there's a plot line with Michael. What is his name?
Anthony Michael Hall.
Thank you, Anthony Michael Hall.
I can't either.
Can't keep him straight.
AMH.
So with him, he is a freshman, and he is on the hunt. He wants a girl. He needs to get like his buddies. Ooh, John Cusack is one of his buddies, which makes me laugh so hard because it's one of John Cusack's first role. Okay, the fun story that you didn't get to hear on the last episode. So Anthony Michael Hall, the director, pulled him aside and said, "Look, you've got the role. It's yours, locked and loaded. But I need you to pick out of all of these people who are auditioning, who would you think would be your buddies in the movie, like with your character?" And so he picked one dude, and then is the other dude, John Cusack. And that was John Cusack's like basically first breakout role. And then the rest is history. John
Yeah.
Cusack became the 80s, 90s, and what he is today. His sister, Joan Cusack, is also in this movie. She's on the bus, and she's the girl with the retainer thing,
Oh,
which
yeah,
she
yeah.
can't drink.
Edgar.
Anyway,
That's
so
pretty
what
epic.
Vicki's alluding to is Anthony Michael Hall, his character, is like, I got to get proof. Like, he makes a deal with his buddy, I got to get proof of that I had relations. And they're like, oh, okay, we'll get underwear. And he walks away, kind of playing it cool, like, oh, I know. And they're like, ladies' underwear. And he's just like, gah. So his thing is, eventually he meets up with our lead actress, Molly Ringwald in the auto shop. Hijinks ensue. He knocks over a bunch of equipment like a fool, stumbling, klutzy man.
Jumps on her twice.
Yeah, so she opens the door for him in the car that's a half of a car at an auto shop, and he tries to make a play for her it doesn't become offensive. It just is kind of
It's not subtle.
yeah, but it's also
And
not
he shouldn't have tried again.
right. It's not malicious, but she does stand up for herself.
Yeah.
The movie
It is technically assault.
Yes, I mean, yeah, but she does have agency in this movie. She's able to push him off. She says, "What are you doing?" I said yes. No.
Why would you do it again?
Why would you do it again? And so at the end of that scene, he turns to her and said, "I need something from you." She's like, "Okay, what? Can I borrow your underpants for 10 minutes?" And the scene cuts. It doesn't give us her reaction. She just looks at him, and then it cuts. So then the scene that Vicky's alluding to is when he has said underpants, and they are collecting money at the door to the
Yeah,
boys'
you see
bathroom.
the door open. What year are you?
Yeah.
A freshman. Okay, give me $1.
Yeah, give me $1.
And they're all like, there's like, it must be at least 20 of them piled in this little bathroom
Yeah.
or so.
And then, like, he's in one of the stalls, and then he holds up the underwear, and ooh.
The boys are just like,
So
like it's a
trophy.
treasure.
yeah,
Yeah.
it's
And she never gets them back.
yeah,
I just want to say.
she never does. So it's an
I think Jake gives them back to her
does he?
because
Yeah, he gives it to Jake to
No
make a
way.
trade. I think he
yeah.
might. I don't know if you see it.
Because remember when she's talking with her dad and she remembers that she doesn't have them?
yeah,
Or
Well,
whatever?
I think he gets him. Maybe I don't know.
Well, I remember Jake does get the underwear. It's
Okay.
part of a trade.
Okay,
Like, you take the underwear, you take my trash girlfriend
my
home.
girlfriend. Okay, so
But he probably didn't give them back. He probably just...
no, he gave them back.
Okay.
He did apparently. I have no.
I don't
memory.
remember
I
that.
hear these belong to you.
Well,
It just showed up in the movie
yeah.
that I remember.
We'll believe Phil. So yeah, then and you'll see if you've watched like 80s montages, that scene heavily rotates in the when he holds up the underwear, they go, ooh. So that definitely plays a part.
Just awe and wonder
Yeah,
at
just-
something that...
Just so absurd.
Ew.
Yeah, just weird. Anybody else favorite moments? Favorites?
Y'all forgot the main character of the whole movie,
Okay.
Duck Long.
Oh no.
Oh, which one?
All of it.
All of it.
So yeah, we do need to talk
I
about.
cracked up every time he was
We
on
need
screen.
to talk about this. So there is an actor, a character who is. They say he's from Korea.
Yeah.
If I remember correctly, and he's the he's the exchange student of one of the grandparents. They picked him up at the exchange student program, and they brought him along for Molly Ringwald's sister's wedding. And so he is.
And they call him the weird Chinese kid.
They really, yeah. It interchangeably happens where like the mom will just slip into it because it.
And the gong.
And yeah. So the,
Yes, I do think the gong
And the
is funny. I know.
bonsai!
yeah. So there's moments in this
gong.
movie where, like, the gong specifically, so when he does something or he appears or his name is said, like, there's a gong that's played. And what we did a little bit of research, and what apparently is that the person who was doing the editing may have had a little bit too much of adult beverages, and so they went a little crazy with the
Overboard
gong,
with the editing.
gong effect, and that's what happened.
And this got lost, but it makes me think of Young Frankenstein.
oh yeah,
when,
Frau Blacher.
The horse is like made.
Yeah.
It's that kind of effect.
Yeah. If you're looking for another comedy to watch, I think we've done that episode, reviewed that for this
No,
podcast.
I don't think we have.
We'll have to do
And I
Young
still think Phil hasn't seen the movie. I took him to the play.
Oh, okay. The movie is I haven't been to the play, so
I haven't been to the play,
this will
yeah.
be very interesting.
Yeah.
So Young Frankenstein's a good one. So there's also been documented concern about the portrayal of the character as Asian and the gong and his speaking style. The actor who plays him did not have that accent. He used it, referenced it like relatives or someone he knew.
The friend,
to
I think.
to copy it. And as time has come on, people have come out and said like, yeah, when that movie came out, people used his name as a pejorative against us as Asians.
Oh, that's terrible.
So there's this part where I know what John Hughes was aiming for because most movies portray Asian, Chinese, Korean, like they portray them as like very studious, very smart, very nerdy. And what John Hughes, I think, did with this, and I think it was partially what people have said in interviews after the fact, is he was trying to kind of flip the script on the quote unquote Asian stereotype, and he gets a lot of play.
Mm-hmm.
Like he picks up a girlfriend. He is socially everywhere and anywhere. He ends up at the party. Like
Cars in the lake.
cars in
we
the
don't know
lake.
where Lumberjack is.
yeah, we're still concerned
She's
for
fine. She's not. She's fine.
So yeah,
She went home after the whole in the floor happened.
Yeah, oh my gosh. It was a whole thing. So what we're referring to is a character who in the 1980s was partially a stereotype, but was also partially some comic relief in a movie that's already kind of funny. So
Yeah, that's weird, isn't it? Like, it's already pretty funny, and you still got this guy as, like, the comic relief.
Well, it's like over the top, making it. Like,
it is. Yeah. There's an absurdity level to it. So yeah, we're willing and able to admit that in 2024
it's offensive.
It's offensive. It's not kind. It's pretty rough. But if you were a 1980s audience and you were watching it for the first time or the second time or how many times, you probably would have not even batted an eye and laughed, because that was the time and the age. And I don't think John Hughes was particularly malicious in his writing and portrayal of what he wanted the actor to do. But again, 1980s versus 2024, a lot of time has passed. 40 years has passed since that time.
And a lot of comedy is offensive. Like,
so that's a deeper conversation at some point we could do, is like, where do we draw the line on offensive comedy? Do we draw the line here? And then, well, what if some people find it hilarious and don't think that's an issue? And how do we define that? And I don't have an answer, because that's a very big question. Anything else from 16 Candles?
I mean, I just love the ending where, Jake is like pointing at her and she's like, "Oh, me?" Like,
okay, so we got to talk about that. So we're skipping over the wedding.
Oh yeah, the muscle relaxers.
I'm totally fine with that. We don't need to talk about the wedding.
Future brides don't drink before your wedding day.
So
on the wedding day.
His Molly Ringwald's sister, her character sister in the movie, is getting married to an absolute idiot, and the in-laws,
who shows up in the Breakfast Club, by the way.
Yeah, so he shows up as the janitor.
The janitor.
He's the janitor.
I know, I saw him, but I was like,
Yep.
Aaron, I think he's been in something else, and I looked it up, and I'm like, oh, it's the
Yep, the janitor.
Okay.
Very different role.
Yes.
Very different
Yes.
role. So yeah, there's a wedding scene where the daughter is nervous and she's having issues, and her mom says, "Oh well, she took one muscle relaxer to be okay," and then the daughter goes, "Or 4." She's like, "What, mother?" And so she is a loop of disaster from the waiting area all the way down the aisle. It is.
That's a good way. A loop of disaster.
Yeah, a loop of disaster. If you have nothing, if no other reason compels you to watch this movie, watch it for that whole exchange on its own.
Literally.
It is fantastic. So at the end, like, she's like, he shows up and he knows, like, he's looking at her, she's like, "Oh, me?" And she's like, "Oh, I've got to go to the dinner or whatever, or reception dinner."
Yep.
And then she kind of looks and says, "I don't have to go to the reception dinner." And so he takes her to his car, and so we have to then flip over to Dad.
Yeah.
And so Dad and Mom finally realize halfway through this movie that they forgot about their daughter's wedding. They both apologize.
Birthday.
Sorry. They both apologize to her and say, "We're sorry. We messed up. We own this." And so then her dad has a good conversation with her at night.
Really good.
About what's going on. He initially thinks she's mad because her sister's marrying an idiot.
Because they are mad.
Yeah. And she's like, "No, that's not it." And he's like, "Oh, okay, well, what is it?" And she's like, "Oh, it's nothing." She's like, "Okay, come on, is it a boy?" "Yeah, it's a boy." And so he really kind of leans in and helps her, and it saves his persona, saves the dad. And both Mom and Dad, the actors, lobbied John Hughes to clean that up a little bit, because like, there's come on, these parents have got to care. You can't just, the apathy doesn't fit what's going on in this family, and this family's pretty cool. So we got that. And
how the dad expresses that, like, when she finds love, it'll be forever, where her sister, it's not going to be like that.
He says, "I'm not worried about you. We worry about her, but I don't have to worry about you." And that's just kind of the moment of just like, man, as a 16-year-old girl, hearing that of like, "I don't got to worry about you, kid. I know what you're capable of. I know you're smart enough and you got a good head on your shoulders." Like, wow, that's a vote of confidence from Dad.
For sure.
Because that's huge.
By the way, Aaron, a compliment to you. That's something like my dad said to me, or like my parents. They're like, we're not worried about you at all. Like, we always knew you were going to be fine.
Oh, there you go.
So there you go.
So 16 Candles, it ends with our hero and our heroiness at his house.
With a birthday cake with candles.
16 candles. She blows them out, and then they kiss.
Then they go. Well, he asked her to make a wish. She goes, "But it already came true." It's so sweet.
Blow the candles out. Movie's over.
Yeah.
Anything else from this movie? Oh, the brother, the younger brother, is a madman.
I love him. He's funny.
He's absolutely unhinged.
The grandparents are crazy.
Oh,
but.
Good Lord. Yeah.
They're both sets are crazy in their own different
own ways. Yeah.
Yeah, they're nuts. Okay. Anything else from 16 Candles?
No.
I'm trying to think of anything else. Oh, is this where Anthony Michael Hall gets the girlfriend?
Yeah.
Yeah. So Anthony Michael Hall, he so he drives our hero's car home with the girl in it.
No, he drives Jake's dad's
Oh,
Rolls
Jake's dad,
Royce.
yeah, Jake's dad's car, the
with
Rolls
the
Royce.
phone in it.
And they end up going crazy. They end up parked across the street from the church where the wedding is happening.
Yeah.
Crazy.
And he's like, "Did we do it?" And she's like, "Maybe." And we know they didn't because they're back together again. Anyway. But they start to kind of pair off, and then they kiss, and then Jake drives by, and he goes, "Oh, I'm gonna die, I'm gonna die, I'm gonna die," and Jake just kind of says, "You know what? She's yours."
Yeah.
I'm okay. I'm happy. And so then it kind of is a nice.
They had a nice mutual agreement. I
Yeah,
think.
and I think they're probably a better match
Yeah.
between Anthony Michael Hall
Yes.
and the girl versus Jake. Okay, I just want to spotlight that because that was the absurdity of that whole scene of him driving and not knowing how to. It was wild.
That car was ruined.
Yeah, destroyed. Okay, anything else before we move on to our main and big feature?
Nah.
Should we check the sound, or you think we're okay?
I mean,
I haven't heard anything.
Sure. We're gonna put a mark, and then we'll bring in some music to transition
Hate this voice so
to
much.
the.
Stop!
It's my radio voice. Don't hate the player, hate the game.
I'm not hating you. I hate the voice.
All right, so we're gonna be right back here on Nerds by Screenlight. We'll do a little pause thing.
Get nerdy with me. Talk nerdy to me. Get nerdy with me. All I really need for you to do is just please
I can stop.
talk to me. Talk nerdy to me.
Okay, we're back. Okay, so we're now into Breakfast Club.
Yeah.
So
This is going to be starring Zoe.
starring Zoe.
Yeah. It's going to
Well, I
explain
hope
to us
not
his
just
basic character.
She's got a lot of thoughts and a lot of feelings and a lot of ideas, which is good. We like that. So it's interesting. This movie doesn't open with anything aside from just title cards.
There's a quote.
There's a quote. Did you write down the
I
quote?
did.
All right.
Tell
Zoe,
us.
would you read us the quote from David Bowie?
And these children that you spit on as they try to change their worlds are immune to your consolations. They're quite aware of what they are going through. David Bowie.
And then
Go David Bowie.
then the glass gets shattered.
Yeah.
I love it too because by the end of this movie, you fully understand that quote.
Mm-hmm.
Don't you?
Forget about me.
Yep. So it's
Such a good song.
It is.
it's good. Well, so yeah, David Bowie. So the glass smashes. Now we get a narration that previews the end, which I think is interesting. So it almost spoils it a little bit. We don't know what's going on. If you're watching this movie for the first time, you're like, okay, what the heck? What's the deal? But they're basically starting to read the essay. What I love about this is every single character gets a setup.
Yeah.
And it's brilliant. There's not like a dump truck of like information that's given. We see every single one of them and their unique relationship with their parents. What I like about it is that. So who's first? I'm trying to remember.
Ma, the redhead, I think. Claire.
Yes, Claire's
So-
first in the BMW.
So Claire is first with the BMW, and Dad's like, "I'm sorry, I tried to get you." She's like, "Why couldn't you get down?" I'll make it up to you. Like, obviously, she's a rich girl.
I'm trying to think of the word she uses to she's like, I'm not a defect or something.
Yeah.
And he's like, yeah, you're not a defect for skipping class to go shopping.
Right.
And I'm like, well,
I'm
no,
like, you
you're not a
shouldn't skip class
defect,
to
but
go
like,
shopping, though.
don't go skip class.
Don't skip class to go
You're going
shopping.
too easy on her, dude.
Yeah.
Right. So that yeah.
So like when that happened, I looked at you and I was like, she really? You said that didn't. That's not why. But she never actually tells her story of why she got.
Oh, got detention.
Yeah. So maybe she did skip class.
No, I didn't. It wasn't for her. It was for Andrew. I don't feel like he is very honest in the beginning.
Yeah.
It wasn't Claire that I said that about. It was about Andrew.
Oh, okay.
But yeah, but I like because it sets us up for us to understand her character and how entitled and how spoiled and how
Entitled, that's a good word.
Well,
Yeah.
she is the princess.
she is the princess. Absolutely. So we get her, then we get who's next?
Andrew.
Andrew.
The Mighty Ducks coach.
Yep, Emilio Estevez.
It
Did you ever watch the Mighty Ducks?
Yes.
I did.
Emilio Estevez.
The athlete.
And he's the athlete, and he plays that role perfectly for this whole
Yes.
movie. But him and his dad, his dad's like, you know,
You can't lose your
yeah,
scholarship.
can't lose your scholarship. You gotta do this. Can't mess up again like you did.
I have to admit, at the beginning of that conversation, when Dad first starts, I'm like, okay, good, you're holding me accountable. Then as it progresses, I'm like,
Yeah.
never mind, I don't like you anymore.
Yeah, his dad's not nice to him, so he gets out, and then who's next?
The
Oh.
criminal walks by as the basket case is getting out.
Right, so he just hangs on a vehicle, isn't dropped off by his parents, which again,
Hey, we don't learn his real name till like towards the end, which I forgot. It's John. Whatever. John and Allison.
Yeah.
You don't learn their names literally till almost the end.
No, well, so you get John. So, Anthony Michael Hall is Johnson. We don't get his first name for a little bit. Emilio Estevez we get as Andrew because his dad calls him that, or the janitor calls him that. Bender, we find out his name pretty early because they call him Bender. We do
Yeah,
get that.
John.
His name's John.
We
Bender.
get John. We don't get John until much
Yeah.
later.
Yeah.
And then Ali Sheedy. Do we get her character name?
At almost the very end, Allison.
Allison. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was like, well, there's a reason.
Okay, we'll get there.
Yeah.
Okay. So
and we got
so
It'd be a
then
great episode.
yes. So then who's next?
John.
So John walks by without a car, and then
Oh, then the Brian, the brain,
yep, Brian the
is
Brain.
the last one out.
Yep, he shows up.
And his mom is a jerk, and his sister.
Yeah, she's like, you got to her card. You got to.
You got to study while you're in there. Well, we can't. And she's
Right.
like, well, you better figure out a way.
Oh,
and the
yeah.
sister goes, yeah.
Which honestly took me back to like, so, hi internet. I had detention in high school. I didn't have it much, but it was brutal. Like it was an hour, and I had to find a spot at the wall, and I had to stare at it for an hour until we were at time to go.
Yeah.
That would be horrible.
It was brutal.
Yeah.
It was brutal, and it was a really strict fine art school. So I got detention the first time because I was like a minute late to class,
Yeah.
and then I got it
ridiculous.
again for PDA.
Also dumb, I think, but okay.
3 hours. I had 3 hours detention. So
Lord.
I got some flashbacks of like,
It's boring.
here, and actually that's probably why like sometimes when you kiss me in public, I'm a little bit like, oh, is that okay? Because of that stupid.
I don't want
experience.
detention again.
Right.
It's kind of jolted to my head. You shouldn't have been hugging your boyfriend in the hallway.
Your principal's gonna jump out of the
The
nearby
bushes
tree.
and be like, you never changed. You delinquent.
That's when I'd be like, I don't know who you are.
Trauma.
Clot, punch.
Well, I have also had detention, and it kind of resembles someone in this movie. So when we get to them,
Okay.
I will expose who that person is.
Okay.
Exposed.
We're looking forward to that.
Okay.
Okay, so they all walk into the room differently. They all take their seats differently.
I
Yes.
love John.
Yeah.
He's like my favorite.
Right.
So just how he walks in and he's just like throwing everything down and
Right.
picking stuff up.
Right.
Smacking stuff on the
Made
wall.
Brian get up out of his seat
Right.
so he
Moved
could
him
sit
over.
there.
Right. Moved him over.
And I'm watching this going, man, I'm getting like PTSD.
He
So good at that.
throughout this whole movie, he is not a nice guy.
No.
He's a
He is
bad boy.
he is a
Me love
jerk.
him. I can't stand him.
I think we're not supposed to like him until the very end.
Yeah.
Like he is the
Fair.
guy you're kind of like. But what's interesting, and we'll get there, is that pretty quickly they all back him up. Like they stand up for him, even though they've just endured his abuse for the first however many minutes. So yeah, he comes in, and then Allison, or Ali Sheedy, as I know her as her actress name, like comes in the back.
She's my second favorite.
She's my favorite, top number one. I wrote several times.
She's someone I could not figure out, so I cannot wait for this
I
one of those.
love
I'm
her
just
like. I love her random outbursts.
Yeah. So she gets there and she sits. She looks as if she's going to go into the other part of the room, but then she takes the last seat and just sits down.
It like is like not even facing them.
Yeah,
She's
no.
like turned like her back's to them.
Yeah, she's not even paying attention.
She has her full coat on.
Yeah, she's
and the
got,
stuff that she does with her art,
yeah, she's, oh my gosh,
making it snow.
we're gonna get there. Yeah, the dandruff scene is classic. So
And of course the jock and the princess sit together. I mean, that's obvious.
Yeah.
yep,
'Cause they're just saying,
In the very front row too, which I just
yep.
I don't know. It's funny.
Okay, so then we get our principal.
oh,
hate him.
the brain came in too. Don't
Brain
forget
came
about
in.
Brain.
Yep, he sat down. The principal, he is the true antagonist in this movie.
Is it the principal or is he just like a teacher?
It seems to suggest he's the principal because he's got an
That's
office.
horrifying.
Yeah. But a lot of what you would see in probably in high schools like this, would be hard principals like this who were just...
I would hope not. Some of those things I would have been
when
calling
okay, well,
people.
When I was first watching this, I was like, okay, it's time to retire. And then it was like a couple minutes later, I looked at Aaron and I was like, no, forget it. He needs to be arrested.
So, okay, like clearly, like, yes, that, a lot of, like, but I think a lot of what principals was that hard edge because they couldn't show weakness that was like, they were trying to hold the building together. There's a lot of things he does that's absolutely out of control and unacceptable in every which way. I get his attitude, but I'm like, nope, you don't get to do that.
Yeah.
You can kind of understand his feelings a little bit.
I can understand, but not accept or support.
Nope.
So there's so much.
There's a lot.
There's so much showing in this movie that it's brilliant. There is there's a couple of moments where we get a little bit of a tell, like we have to get some front load exposition work, but it's done so naturally that you just are along for the ride. Now, here's the thing: most of this movie is talking. Mm-hmm. It is dialogue.
And
there
is 90% in one room.
Yeah, one room. There is no action. There is no adventure. They go around the building a little bit, but that's for maybe 15 minutes tops.
Literally.
The rest of this movie is a character study in the school library.
Yeah.
That's it.
I mean, what an odd setting for a movie.
Phil goes, is this a detention center? Like, this looks nice. I'm like, it's a library.
Right. We had really nice libraries. We still do, I think, in most schools. But yeah, this was probably the setting was a big high school and a really nice library with all.
I didn't have a 2-story library either, but
yeah.
you know.
Well, we got to talk about like the important thing, like what the principal wants them to do.
Yeah, so he wants them to write an essay. Each of them to write their individual essay, 1,000 words, about why they're here
And who they think they are.
And he says we're going to try something different. So what that suggests is that even for as awful as he is in his entire movie to the students, not only is he awful to them, he's also he tries to be awful to the janitor. Mm-hmm. The janitor's not having it.
No.
So it suggests that he might be trying something new to try and like change the children. And so maybe he read it in a book somewhere. And he's like, oh, I'll try this. This will change. This will make
Which,
detention.
that's real. Like, all right, this didn't work. Let's try this method.
Yeah, and I think he goes in thinking it's going to fix everything, and it.
But
doesn't.
I think they have a great response to
Oh
that.
yeah, no, I think their letter to him in the end is brilliant, and you notice he reads it. He doesn't react. He doesn't throw it down. He doesn't get mad. He reads it, and full on is like, okay, maybe so. And they do get to leave. Like they walk out of the building, so he doesn't hold them there. Whatever.
But yeah, they're from like 7 a.m. to
9 hours.
Yeah,
Yep.
like
I can't even
9
imagine.
hours of Saturday school.
Oh, jeez.
Now I don't know if we ever had Saturday school when I graduated high school, but I know we had detention-ish, if I can remember correctly.
So in North Carolina, this is crazy, but when I was in elementary school, we would have to go to school on Saturdays to make up for like snow days,
Oh jeez,
and it was the worst experience.
Oh, poor thing.
that's rough.
Yeah.
Okay.
Trauma.
So I was thinking, like, when they're in there for 9 hours, I was like, I remember this when we would have
Right.
snow
I was
days.
watching it. I was like, a full day of detention? An hour staring at that wall was bad enough. A whole day?
I know we're not there yet, but I want to like bring up. So they're there 9 hours.
Yep.
And the audacity of them not providing these kids the school lunch.
You're right. They have to bring their own.
Or only like one bathroom break that he takes them on.
Yeah, that's insane.
One bathroom break, you get one beverage.
He didn't even want to give them beverages. They had to ask for them.
And they had to go pay for them, I think. He's like, there's a vending machine in the teacher's lounge. You
Yeah.
two, go. So they have to go pay on their own for all this. Now, mind you, this is the 80s.
Yeah.
In the 2024, if we had Saturday school, Lord in heaven, let's not.
Never.
You would have to have food and snacks and access to restrooms. Like there are a whole bunch of rules and regulations around that whole process.
Yes.
Sorry for skipping ahead. I know like the food is kind of like an important part of the plot here.
Yeah,
so
we'll
get to it.
So when I was talking about earlier, the movie does a lot of like showing, but it does it so effectively. Like you really get to understand these characters. All right, where are we at? Are we at the point where Bender goes after Estes for the first time? So I'm mixing up our character names and our actors' names because I
right.
can't touch my computer.
Yeah, let me get the plot. Hold on.
If I try and open an internet, all hell breaks loose and we lose it.
Hold
I don't
on,
want
all right.
another lost episode.
All right, pulling up the
I
plot.
can't even, Zoe. I can't even.
Okay.
All right, Bender ignores the rules and spends his time antagonizing the others and defying Vernon. What a great name.
Yeah.
Who gave it? Oh, I like the joke that he gave. It's like, did you Did Barry Manilow know that he stole the clothes from his wardrobe?
That's another detention.
Detention. He basically ends up with like 7 or 8
was funny.
detentions.
2 months.
2 months of detention. What I love about this, so he starts going after Estevez, and Molly Ringwald's character is like, you know, just ignore him. And the line, I've written down a couple of these lines, but this line is one that you hear a lot. People will repeat. He says, "Sweets, you couldn't ignore me if you tried," and it's just said so smoothly. You're just like, oh boy, the Riz, as they say, is on high at this point.
Foreshadowing.
Yeah, you couldn't ignore me if you tried. And then Emilio Estevez's character says, "You don't even count," and he goes on this whole tirade about the school wouldn't miss you. That comes back to haunt him
Yep.
in the end, towards the end of the movie.
He rewords it verbatim what he says.
Yeah, and he remembers it. And there's a lot of stuff like because you're afraid, because you're a coward.
Oh yeah, Claire calls him a coward.
Yeah, what I like about this movie is that there is kind of what we talked about previously in the Lost episodes. There's a reality to this dialogue. This is really probably how they would have talked to each other.
Yeah.
Like how high schoolers have been like, no, you're like, they're unafraid to confront each other. They're not comfortable, but they're not afraid to stand up for themselves. They're not going to play nice. This is not your after school special. This is real life for these characters.
And I think they're really playing into their stereotypes right now, and that changes over time. But
Yeah.
Yeah, I like how Brian's like, he overshares.
Yes.
he's so cute.
He's like, I'm in the physics club.
And the math club.
And we
I
do
like
social
him.
activities.
And she's like, but those are academic clubs. Well, and then John's like, I think they're social.
No, John.
I'm with John on this. I'm like, a club is a club.
Yeah.
John actually has says something like brilliant here. He's like, well, that's the same type of club to Brian. Like Brian doesn't know that there's
Yeah.
any difference.
Right. Yeah.
This was the point where I was looking at John and I'm like, he is maybe the smartest person in the room. I bet you, like, he, modern day, he could be GT.
Yeah.
Quite
Oh
possibly.
yeah, no, he's absolutely brilliant.
He's very smart.
But he also as we get to as we slowly but surely uncover. So when we get the show of the parents dropping off, and we get an idea of like, okay, we've got some things, but the movie doesn't shy away from digging into that, and it shows us how different their struggles are, but how so much similar all of them are together in their pain and their struggle.
I mean, John isn't getting dropped off, and he literally walks right in front of a car.
Right.
I mean, that just shows you how much he really doesn't care.
He really doesn't
like
care.
about his own life, even.
Right.
Like
He just is indifferent. It's not even just apathy. It's just I am lost in a sea of people who are, my home life is a wreck. I'm a wreck. I don't even care.
Yeah.
Throw me
Well,
against.
Zoe pointed out to me that like when he was arguing with Richard,
Yeah.
the principal, he was doing that on purpose
Yeah.
so that he wouldn't have to be home.
he would rather be there than
That
be
makes
home.
sense.
So
now.
we've talked.
Sorry to steal your counselor corner.
Well, I was about to say something else too.
So we talk about this. So both myself and Zoe, we work at an alternative education school here in Fort Morgan, and there in the time that I have been there and the time that I've been there, this has been my 5th year. This is your third or fourth year. So you came in a year after.
Yeah.
So I've only got a year on you. We've both been in our building. We have some of the greatest kids in the world in our building, and I'm not even saying that just to sound like we do.
Aw.
We absolutely have some of the greatest kids in the entire district or world or however you want, whatever value,
Anywhere.
like they are. They are some of the
Get a little
coolest kids.
possessive there.
They're kind of the coolest things, and their world echoes a lot of this.
Yeah.
And we're not going to get specific, obviously, but
No.
and if you're familiar with alternative education schools in your area or in your life, you know that there's usually a reason why you are either referred to or why you apply to be in one. And you look at each of these kids. Claire, I don't think would have made it. There's no reason why she would have ended up in an alternative school.
No.
The brain probably would have been fine. He
He would have went voluntarily.
volunteer. He might have asked to go. He would have been like, I need to get out of this madhouse. And then you've got obviously what's his bucket?
I could see Allison going.
We've got Bender. Bender, I think, would absolutely be referred. Like he would have
Without
been
a question.
He would have been referred and said you're going, and he would have ended up
In 9th grade.
he would have ended up in our building. And I think Allie.
That's what I'm saying.
I think Allie would have ended up in our
Absolutely.
building. Go ahead.
And I guess kind of what I was going to say before you
Sorry.
went crazy. I feel like John and Allison really have a nice parallel.
Yeah.
Because they have similar feelings, but from a different place, if like that makes sense.
Yeah.
So like he's walking in front of her parents' car, almost gets hit.
Yeah.
She gets out, tries to like tell them goodbye, and they just drive off from her.
Yeah.
So I just thought that was a nice little parallel of how they're like,
Yeah.
they come from similar experiences, but they're very different at the same time.
Right. Whereas he's constantly having attention paid to him.
Right. Where she is ignored.
She's ignored, but the spectrum that they're on is very similar. They're on.
I don't know if I can say this, but like abuse and neglect.
Yeah, absolutely.
Like that's
well,
what
and
it is.
we talk about that with alternative education. There's a whole process to get into an AEC, and it's a checklist,
Totally.
And a lot of that talks about either trauma and neglect. There's a whole list. It's like, what is it, 20 items long or
Yes.
something like that, and it talks about all kinds of variable things that would classify a student to be able to apply to an AEC, and that's on there. Trauma and neglect and chronic history of that, or documented cases of that are absolutely on that list for referrals.
Yeah.
So yeah, these students, at least 2 or 3 of them probably would have ended up with us either voluntarily or applied.
I mean, I can see all of them, like
Yeah.
parts of all of them in our students of that.
Yeah.
Makes sense.
Well, and I think that's the beauty of John Hughes' writing is he wrote these movies and these stories for students.
Yeah.
And as some 80s movies, the years have not been kind to them. I think if you look at these John Hughes movies, the ones we've watched, 16 Candles, Weird Science, and Breakfast Club, there's not a lot of things that are like, okay, well, that's not how we do things anymore. Like, you see computers in the background,
Right.
but they're not used, they're not touched, they're not engaged.
They're not on their phones.
They're not on their phones. They're working through Saturday detention school. So the themes are very, very still current. I guarantee you, if you sat our kids in front of this movie and had them watch it, they would be moved. They would be like, "Whoa, this goes hard." It's like, yeah, it's not playing around. So that's kind of our sliding into counselor's corner, but also like AEC corner, because again, we definitely see our a large number of our kids in each of these characters. Which
Yeah, but let's be honest. In this episode, it's a lane.
yeah,
Your lane is a lane for you.
yeah. There's
I think it gets more intense towards the end. I mean,
Yeah.
This movie always makes me cry. I was like trying not to, and it's right when the Brian tells his story is when I
yeah.
really get upset.
Yeah, what this movie does is that it's not, like when you watch like a horror movie or a scary movie, which again, that's Zoe's her vibe. That's not my
That's
vibe.
my self-care. I know that might sound weird to some people, but
Hey, you know what? It's you. You live your life, you do your thing.
I don't have to fix them with their problems.
Right.
They can just do whatever.
Anyway, well, I didn't
They're fictional, It's,
yeah. So Vicki knows this about me, but like if you start a bit, like I'll take us down the road. I won't stop. I stopped myself because I was like, I could take this, but I'd have to make some marks and edit some things out. It would not be a good ride. It would become
Your rants.
yeah. I would yeah. Anyway, so there's tightening of tension in horror movies and scary movies, right? And it depends on what you're dealing with, but that ratcheting up is either quick or it's slow. And in this movie, there isn't tension per se, but there is an elevating emotional depth that is being explored, and it is slowly but surely turning and turning and turning. By the time we get to a lot of these reveals and these really, really intense conversations where the characters are in tears, the movie has been slowly but surely kind of guiding us towards this moment and subtly warning you, we're gonna unearth some stuff. Buckle up. Hold on. We ain't done.
Yeah, because I mean, when I first watched this, I thought John Bender's story would have been the worst one.
Yeah.
But then when you get to the end, it's like,
Yeah.
oh God, they all have really horrible stories.
Right.
Yeah.
I want to say that this whole dynamic that they end up forming together
Yeah.
is all because of John,
Yeah.
Yeah.
because he won't leave them alone.
Yeah.
And
So okay, that's
fair.
an interesting
Yeah.
topic. So he won't leave them alone, partially because he has been alone for so long. I mean, he has friends. He does say that, but he doesn't really reference them or talk about them. I mean, not all of them do, but he, I think, either consciously or subconsciously or unconsciously, any variation of the three, recognizes that these people stood up for him early on, and they still stand up for him throughout the movie. They still back him up. These people are, at their cores, good. And that's why he kind of keeps coming after him, because Emilio Estevez's character doesn't lay him out until he really gets mad. And but he doesn't hit him. He puts him in a wrestling move. He doesn't punch him.
Yeah.
He just wrestles him to the ground, and that's the end of it.
While we're on that, he pulls out a knife. Oh, yeah. And here's one of my favorite parts of the movie. Allison steals it.
Yes, I caught that. I was
I
like,
missed that part.
I said it out loud. Like, oh, she took the knife.
She takes a lot.
She does.
She does.
She is a kleptomaniac. She
Yeah.
steals everything.
She's. I don't want to say weird because I love her and I don't want to.
They're all weird though. But
They all
Yeah, all are weird.
Here's the thing: we talk about this at our school. I have to be careful not to name it, but we talk about all stories matter. Every single story that walks through our door has purpose and matters. In this movie, each of their story is given equal weight, and it's not like, yes, they're weird, but almost threw a cup across the table.
Gosh.
Their stories matter, and the weirdness is not. I mean, yeah, they call each other weird, and they kind of dig into each other, but in the end, their weirdness is pretty normal. Like, they accept each other as normal, as they're normal, and they're like, oh yeah, no, you're cool. Like, yeah, we're all different. We're all weird, and we're all wacky.
Weird, yeah.
We're all weird. And so, like, to your point, I think he recognizes the weirdness in all of them, and that's a natural kind of like, it's almost like it crosses the line a few times, but it's kind of like a sister brother sister brother, like that kind of sibling rivalry and that sibling bickering. It kind of does feel like that a little bit with him, because I think he's afraid of them at first, but then he starts to figure out these people actually have soul and heart, and they're not putting up with me, and like, that's interesting, and I want to know more about this. And so he's on his own, I think, unconscious fact-finding mission as he continues. I mean, he goes off on everybody.
Yeah.
He does leave our quiet girl alone, I think.
He calls her out like once, and I can't remember what he says. But he does kind of bring her into the conversation at one point. I don't think she really responds, but
No, she doesn't.
I don't know. See, I see John as like, there's a little part of him in me, like when I was a teenager, for like
Yeah.
100%. I was always fighting. Like, I did not like fake people. Like,
Yeah.
and I would say I still don't. But I think he's trying to be like, tell me who you really are.
Yeah.
I don't want to see this little stereotype. Like, you're the princess, you're the jock, you're the brain.
Yeah.
Who are you really?
Yeah.
And because he shares first.
Yeah.
Yeah, he does.
So-
So he shares first, and like, they don't believe him.
Yeah.
Which makes him like.
Really upset.
Yeah.
I was
really
upset
upset.
for him. I'm like, why wouldn't you believe him?
Well, okay, so let's.
So this is the lunch scene, right?
I don't know if we're there yet.
No, this is before.
Yeah, before lunch. So here's the thing. They know each other very little.
Right.
When they're all brought together, like, they don't run the same circles, obviously, and they're all part of different cliques and different groups and whatever. Or in the case of our quiet girl, she has no friends.
I mean, the principal doesn't even know her name.
That's just.
Yeah, but
He knows everybody else's name.
but her.
Yeah.
because he asks her what her name is, and
And then he just keeps calling her Missy, which I think is so rude.
right.
Why'd you even ask her name if you're not going to
Right.
call her?
So here's the thing, though. If you're sitting at that table, and you know him by reputation a little bit, and you've also been dealing with him this whole time, and he hasn't been telling the truth. He's been lying through his teeth. Like, you're not gonna trust a damn word out of his mouth. And if he shares this really explosive, wacky story about his family situation, you're just gonna be like, okay, it's a performance. Because all you've seen of him so far is just this: I'm gonna hate on everybody, I'm coming after everybody, I'm beating up on everybody, I'm a jerk, I'm a jerk, I'm a jerk, I'm a jerk. It's like, well, why should I believe you? You've been an absolute arse to me. Like,
Yeah, he was being a jerk to Brian.
Yeah.
And this, like, talking about, he was like mocking how Brian's home life would be.
yeah.
And then
Oh,
then they asked him, like, well, what about you?
And
Well,
then
how's yours?
And then he so well,
Because
no.
he would want Brian's life.
Yeah.
I mean, wouldn't everybody want that life of like?
Well, not Brian.
Yeah.
Well, I know because we learn later, but like, from his like perspective
From the
of what he
outside-
sees,
the outside looking
like
in,
he
yeah.
wants that. He wants to
Right.
be fed and loved
right.
and like all those things.
Yeah.
So we do get a picture of Bender's home life. It's pretty intense. He's pretty explicit in relating what a scene looks like at his home. Mom and
It's physically abusive.
mom and dad are not
And verbally.
Yeah, verbally and physically abusive to each other. He's also physically abused. So here's what happens. So Emilio Estevez's character says that's a lie. I don't believe it. And so then Bender rolls up and you'll notice Bender has sleeves.
Yeah.
He doesn't have his arms exposed like everybody else. And so he rolls up his sleeve and says, "Is that a lie?" Or says this. And it's a cigarette. It's a cigar burn. We thought it was a cigarette burn, but then he says he's like, that's the size of a cigar.
Yeah.
It's a cigar burn. And he's like, that's what happens when whatever happens in whatever you forget.
Oh, he spilled paint in the garage.
Oh, that's what happens when you spill paint in the garage. And then I think Emilio Estevez's character kind of just goes, okay, maybe this is for real. And that's
Yeah. For me, it's when he pulled the knife. That I was like, oh boy.
Yeah, so that's when things get real. But he doesn't do anything with it. He stabs it on the chair.
And Allison takes it.
And Allison steals it.
Need this for later.
So
my
then
news.
I think we skipped the door situation, right?
Which
Yeah,
was
we did.
hilarious.
So so he goes. So our Bender goes. He's like, because he a couple times he's like, hey, we should go close that door. We should go close the door. And no one's doing it. They're like, no, we're not doing that. We're not getting ourselves in trouble. So he goes and does it. He takes the spring out of the door.
That's how he did it.
Yeah, he took the spring out of the door, so then it closes, so it won't stay open. And then he kind of races back and sits down. And the principal comes out and he's like, "Who did the door?" And Allison does the.
Yeah.
I laughed. I love that
did
scene
too.
because she gets so overwhelmed. She's like,
I'm not gonna say anything.
You're right, and she's just like a little cat, like.
Isn't this where she like her hood?
Yes,
covers
she
her whole-
literally drops her whole head on the.
and
Yeah.
pretends like I'm not here.
Yeah.
Like,
Like, I don't exist.
I'm invisible. I don't want to talk about it. So this is at the point where he gets 7 or 8 detentions.
I know it's bad. It is bad to gaslight people.
Yes.
But this was a brilliant example
Yeah.
of how John was gaslighting the principal.
Right.
Like, that chair's not going to work, dude.
Yeah,
and
yeah.
then he's like,
Oh,
well, I'm
and
still
then-
going to try it.
And
And
then,
then-
that was funny.
And then they got the magazine rack, and he got Emilio Estevez's character go help him, and he's like, I don't think that's gonna work either,
I got
sir.
mad at the principal at this point
Yeah.
because the jock is trying so hard, and he's just like, "You're useless."
I
And
know.
was-
And it's like,
Get
I
out
was
of the
like,
way.
well, why did you even ask him to help? Like,
Right. So then the door just gets closed.
Yeah.
And he's like, I'll be checking on you and whatever.
sure you would. But yes, he gets 2 months of detention.
Yeah, Saturday's detention forever.
that
And their
scene was-
back and forth is very interesting.
Oh, that scene was so painful for me to watch. Like as a teacher, I'm just like, you're in a no-win situation.
Right.
Yeah.
It's
So
that power
did
struggle.
they ever?
Yeah, it's just like, no, just back away.
Yeah.
You need to do something else.
Did they ever find a way to like get the door to stay open
Nope.
or no?
it stays closed.
Yeah, because then
and
they
that-
sneak out later.
Oh yeah.
So the power trip from the principal, he is not a nice principal. He is not an example of how you should be a principal.
No.
Yeah. He's,
Even down to the calendar in his office.
yeah, it's inappropriate.
Yeah,
I'm like,
I
what?
noticed that. I showed Aaron. I'm like, you see my calendar?
And I had never noticed it until now.
I
was like,
didn't either.
Well,
What was it?
that's delightful. And I mean that in the worst way possible.
If Aaron says things are delightful, it usually means the
Not.
opposite.
It's bad. It's bad. So what interesting? So when he gets out of yelling at the dude and giving him like 8 detentions, he gets outside the door, and there's a moment where the principal kind of just goes, like he realizes he's gone too far. Like,
Yep.
But the problem is, it just doesn't stop.
He keeps going.
He keeps doing it. Just it levels up. But it's a moment of like he was in a zone that he probably shouldn't have been in, but he
Yep.
doesn't have enough reflection to go or self awareness to go. Maybe I shouldn't do that.
Yeah, that's when you need to, at the very least, like take some time out,
Yep.
like do some self-care, get in a better place emotionally, figure out how to salvage the situation.
There's a lot of times
For
during
real.
this movie where I'm looking at the principal and I'm like, what are you actually like doing?
Right.
Because like when they sneak out, he's just roaming around the school. Like,
Right.
what are you actually doing? What is your
What is your
goal
job?
here? Like, and they're freaking out and stuff. And then there was another scene where he was doing something. I'm like, why are you doing that? Was it maybe when he was like going through the files?
Yeah, he was going through the files. He was looking through, I think, either student files or he was looking through employee files.
Yeah, I couldn't tell which one it was.
It was like, what are you doing? Like,
The comment he made, it made me seem like it was he was looking through John's file
Oh,
you think so?
because he's like, oh, we might have a mental illness. That makes sense.
yeah. I have to. I can't-
Like he's really letting that kid get to him like for
Yeah.
no reason.
Well, we get to it here later, where it's really, really inappropriate and really awful what he does. So we get
Oh man, I was hoping John would, man.
right. You were hoping for it, but
No.
it didn't happen. So we continuing to do show versus telling and really rocking it. So they all fall asleep and they're all tired.
yeah.
And then he's like, okay, he's like, wake up, and they don't wake up. He's like, who needs to go to the lavatory? And all their hands go up. And then
The one bathroom break they get.
right, the one they get.
Yeah.
At like 10 a.m., I think.
And then, so we get...
And then it's like lunch.
Yep. Is it, oh, no, so he's tearing up books.
Yeah.
And we get the first signs...
I did that in high school.
So
Just one book because I hated it so bad, and I had to read it in high school, and then I was like, I'm going to rip it up and burn it, and
What
I
was the
never
book?
have to read it. Oh, no, I don't know if I can say because I think you both would hate me.
I mean, it's all love here, Zoe.
It was Jane Eyre.
I'm not mad about that.
Yeah, you're fine.
It was not it for me. I had a lot
I
of.
felt that way about the Scarlet Letter.
Okay, that's fair.
I was just, it made me so sad.
Yeah, that's fair.
Yeah, if you're
That
gonna,
was a book that I was like, "Grr."
if you're gonna say To Kill a Mockingbird, I'd be like, okay, let's have a
Oh, no,
conversation.
no. I just didn't like the way they portrayed women in that
Okay.
very much.
To be fair, To Kill a Mockingbird, the first like 200, 300 pages is a slog fest, and things finally pick up the pace. But it's a great novel anyway.
But at least I read the book before I did that.
Right.
So,
Yeah, that's good. Yeah, that's fine. It's fine. Everything's fine. So then we have Molly Ringwald's character flirting over literature a little bit, where he says like, oh, well, this is this Molière or something, and she says it's Molière. And she has this little like biting of her lip thing, and I'm just like, what is happening?
Brian says something like, yeah, I love that work.
Yeah.
You know, they did date for a while in real life.
Yes, I think that's so cute.
And I looked at that, I'm like, were they dating at this point?
I don't know. So they're
This,
flirting.
this is where we get like the first hint that she likes John.
Yeah, she's kind of got a thing for him now. It's developing.
and that he likes her.
Yeah,
Yeah.
There's a little bit of give and take, and then so
Throws the book at Brian.
yeah, throws. He does, doesn't he?
Yeah. Because he's like, it's such great work. And then he
Just throws it at him. Well, here, work on it. Have fun with that. So then we get to the parents' discussion. So Ringwald's dynamic with her parents.
Oh, yeah, they fight. Parents use her to get back at one another.
Yeah, the parents fight each other.
So, like, mom's like, you're grounded. Dad's like, blow her off.
Yeah.
And they're talking about a party. So she's like, yeah, I can probably go to that because my dad won't care. And
Wow.
But at
So-
the same time, I might not.
Right.
Yeah.
Because I don't want to go or whatever. Because and it's interesting. So it's the brain that asks her about the party, isn't it?
Yeah.
And so it's kind of suggests like he may have some social standing in some circles.
He's the king of the freshmen.
Yeah, he's the king.
I mean,
king of the
that's his role.
probably. And so he's trying to get her to go. Like he's trying to see what might be there, if she's maybe a flirt or whatever.
Doesn't John ask her at this point? He asks her like, "Who would you go with?" Or someone asked her like, "Which parent would you choose?"
Oh,
Yeah, that's right. He asked.
it
her
is
that.
John.
Yeah.
And she says, "I'd probably just live with my brother."
Yeah, I live with my brother. Which is interesting that she wouldn't make a choice between the two dysfunctional people in her life, which I understand why she wouldn't.
Oh,
Because why
totally.
would you want to? Because neither of them are good. If one of them's like absolute awful to her and holding her to an a perfect standard she can't meet, and the other one is manipulating her and using her to fight back against his wife. Like neither of those people are good. You're not gonna want to live with them for the rest of your life. You're gonna want to live with my brother. Like he's at least probably functional, and he's away and he's out,
True.
which means he's probably survived this whole experience and managed to better himself.
Which means I can too, you know?
Yeah, she's got possibility. Okay, so the dandruff drawing, we kind of skipped over that.
She is an amazing drawer, though.
Yeah, she's got
Yeah.
skills.
I think it's cute. She makes snow on it.
With her dandruff. I don't know how I'd define that.
Well,
It's
I mean,
cute.
she's ignored, man. No one.
right. No one really cares about her hair.
My response to that was gross.
Yeah, I was like, oh,
It's it's an image I can never get out of my head.
yeah.
I don't know. I think her lunch is a little bit worse than that. So.
Oh gosh. Okay, so now we're gonna talk about. Let's see if we're gonna do lunch. No, knife comes out. Where is lunch?
Well, so they're
Okay, lunch.
asking about milk.
Okay, so hold on. So we got to talk about first. So Carla Janitor shows up,
Oh,
Before
yeah.
lunch.
And he asked
and
how to become a janitor.
And what I love about this movie is it gives Carl, like, you don't mess with Carl. Like, no one messes with him. He's like, okay, your point, and what do you want?
It's like, I read your letters.
yeah,
I hear your conversation.
And
I
they-
know things.
I open your lockers, and they just all just kind of their eyes go a little wider, and it's like, okay, maybe we don't want to mess with this dude. He's not one to be messed with. Okay, so the girl with no name, why are you? Somebody asks her, why are you here? Or she asks, why are you here? I just have a note, girl with no name, why are you here?
Allison.
Allison.
She doesn't really respond
No,
until
she-
later,
She doesn't. So we're back to the library.
which I love her response.
Yeah. We get back to the library, and Brian, the brain, is like, oh, I have a girlfriend, or I had a girl
In Canada.
In Canada.
That's always his line.
right.
Yeah, it is.
She's in Canada, and they're like, okay, whatever.
That must have been like an 80s thing. I don't know.
Oh, it's like the thing where you're saying, oh,
It's all. She's
maybe
online.
call say that I'm out of the country.
Like
Yeah.
they even do it in that 70s show and now the 90s show. They have,
okay.
oh, my person's in Canada. And it's like, what is this like?
Maybe it started from this movie. Maybe that's where it began.
Maybe.
Yeah.
So then we have lunch, and lunch again. They show us illustrative of how each character has lived.
Yes.
I'm sorry. There's some funny ones.
Okay, well let's start. Let's start.
They're
with,
all very telling.
Let's start
Yes.
with Claire. Sushi.
Which John is like, what is that?
I mean, and now in like 2024, we're like, okay, sushi. But I was like, man, for the 80s, that must have been like, what?
Yeah.
John was absolutely appalled, disgusted.
He's like, you wouldn't kiss somebody, but you're going to eat that.
yeah.
Well, he has a point. I mean,
So and it's perfectly portioned, and she has a little thing where she pours the soy sauce.
She's got the chopsticks.
Yeah, she's got the chopsticks. She's all put together, and so then we get to Emilio, the jock. He has
He has
what,
enough food for 5 people.
4 to 5 sandwiches,
whole bag of
a
potato
whole bag of
chips,
chips,
Banana.
a whole bag of chocolate chip cookies,
right? And
what is that? Like a half gallon of milk,
Yeah, a gallon of milk.
apple, banana,
Yeah,
and his Coke that
yeah,
they
and
got.
his coat that he got, and so
And they're just like,
and he just normal. It's gonna be. I'm like, okay.
Oh wait, I'm sorry. We gotta. I'm sorry.
Okay.
Because she's my favorite character. So like when they went to go get the Coke, it was Andrew and Allison, and
you were right. He does ask. She doesn't explain, but then she asked him, and then he does explain why he's there.
Oh, okay.
yeah.
Okay.
But I love her. I don't know if we can really say them, but like I like her responses to some of, because he's like, "What do you drink?"
Vodka.
Yeah,
She said
And
vodka.
she's like, "Vodka," and he's like, "All the time, every day."
Yeah.
Like, okay.
She is. I think this movie is an exploration of her like coming into her own.
Oh, yeah.
Like she starts to come out of her shell a little bit, and she's kind of trying out certain lines.
But she's got some very piercing eyes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Like
Well,
they both draw me in and are a little terrifying.
Well, and so I think what it is that later in the movie she confesses to being a liar. She's a compulsive liar. So the vodka line, I suspect, is a fabrication. It's an absolute lie.
Totally.
That she's not actually drinking vodka every day. I think she's just trying to impress him.
Yeah.
Like she's just like,
Well, she had talked about partying, so she's
Right.
like, okay, well,
well, yeah, we'll go with that line. We'll go with the vodka line. And so, and then
back to lunch.
her lunch, the meat is raw, is rancid.
which is disgusting.
So she throws it onto the statue. The bread's okay, but then she gets pixie sticks, sugars her bread, and then puts like
Captain Crunch.
Captain Crunch on it.
It's a breakfast cereal sandwich.
And then she proceeds to eat it. And they are all looking at her like she's insane. And they're just like, what?
I
guess-
would be like, are you addicted to something? Because like,
Right.
why do you need all
Well,
this?
so, okay. So,
Maybe I'm the weird one in the room that's like, oh, maybe I'd try that.
So-
I mean, I
Wouldn't
would probably
imagine-
try
I
it.
mean, like if you want to chew on razor blades, I mean,
Captain Crunch, yeah, it hurts your mouth.
so what,
That's good to know.
what Zoe was referring to is my guess is that in 2024, if someone was consuming that much sugar in that particular way, we would
Yeah.
be suspicious of either some meth possibilities or other illicit drug addictions
This
that,
is true.
that were
Yes.
feeding that need for
My
that.
brain did go into that. Like,
Yeah. So in the 80s, I mean, I think heroin was probably more popular and crack cocaine was probably more popular, and it probably wasn't. I mean, they the only illicit drug we get in this movie is marijuana.
Yeah.
And so like.
by the way, that was kind of funny. Not them finding the drug, but like, and the principal comes in and like,
He tells the truth.
you know, he goes, "Oh, it's with Brian," and
it's in Brian's pants.
yeah.
and Brian's eyes get so big because it's true.
But
But
he
the principal
doesn't-
doesn't buy it.
He thinks it's a joke.
I thought that was hilarious.
Yeah. And because he was being honest, he's being truthful.
Brian, his eyes.
Yeah. He goes,
Huh? Why did you tell him?
and so what is Brian's lunch?
Oh, he has like, that's
A
when
little
John's picking
canister
on him.
of soup. It's like you have all the food grades.
Yeah, you have
Yeah.
a balanced meal.
Right. So he's got that.
John has no food.
John has no food.
He just has his Coke.
Yep. Just has a Coke he's drinking.
That they bought.
Yeah, they bought.
Andrew and Allison.
Yeah.
So, yep. We get to Bender's family description, I think, at this point.
Yeah.
The cigar burns. He has a meltdown, basically, where
Yeah,
he
he
loses
does
it.
because they don't
They don't believe him. And then, so now they decide to go on the run. They decide to go out, and it's funny. So like, they follow him, and then like our Allison is like, "Why are we doing this?" And Emilio Estevez is like, "I don't know." And she's like, "Well, why are you?" I was like, let's go. Like, I don't really know.
We're bored.
We're bored, and this is happening. So they get to his locker, which
is
it's hilarious and terrifying. So he opens it, and a guillotine comes down.
I missed the guillotine.
Oh,
part.
it was so cool.
It was just like, oh my god, this is terrifying. So he
And it almost feels like it was 3 lockers made like into one.
yeah, it was insane.
Like 2 tiny ones and then like a normal one.
Well, so like the locker, so it's my experience with lockers is there's a full body locker and then there's a top section where you put stuff.
Okay.
And so it looks like it's abnormally large, but that's a pretty normal sized, traditionally 80s locker in a high school.
Gotcha.
So obviously the guillotine was set high up so that when you opened it,
What is it, a booby trap or something?
Yes,
Yeah.
absolutely.
Well, I mean, his drugs are in there. Like,
Yeah.
Yeah, fair.
So you have to think about it, but he has to set that up every time he goes and leaves it. So he's not dumb. He's a smart kid. He's engineering.
But I love this part because, like, once it's a bag within a bag within a bag
Yeah.
within a bag. But then Allison steals his lock.
Oh,
On
she
the
yeah,
left.
she does. I remember
Yep.
that. She so I love Ali Sheedy's like portrayal of Allison. There are moments where I wrote just Ali flippin' Sheedy because she is just incredible. The
Yes.
actress in the, like her. Wow, Oscar should have been Oscar nominated for this thing because it just rocks your socks.
Yeah.
So then they've got the marijuana, and they battle between the path back to the library because they know he's coming back.
Scooby-Doo scene.
Yeah. Remember Raggy?
There's the one point where like they literally like walk out of a door and the principal comes out of another door.
Yeah.
and
And they skid and then
then- yeah.
okay.
Okay, so, John and Andrew are kind of fighting, like, which way they should go.
Yeah. Right.
Everyone ends up going with Andrew,
Yeah.
whatever. And then it's locked.
Yep.
And then, I don't know, I just felt bad for John in this moment because he literally had to, like, give into his stereotype of
Yeah.
being the bad kid. He's like, well, I'm going to get you out of this,
Right. He's
basically.
like, I got this.
And he's like back to the library.
Back, you go back to the
Yeah.
library. I'll and he stuffs the drugs down, the brains, clothing.
Yes.
And takes off. And,
Poor Brian.
Yeah, poor Brian's just like, "Ugh," and so they run back.
I'm surprised he kept it and didn't like get rid of it somewhere on the way
I
back.
would think he was just so afraid of what.
Like,
'cause
I
if
don't
he-
want to touch it.
If he
Where's
threw it,
the-
then they would try, be like, oh, it's on the ground. Where did this come from? There's only so many students. We're gonna hunt
Yeah.
them down. Now we gotta go question them. So he's just like, I'm just gonna keep it in my pants and hopefully it'll end up okay. So he starts singing loudly.
Yeah.
Ends up in the gym and
Playing basketball.
and the principal is upset. And this is where things go off the rails.
Yes.
So he gets him back to
God.
the library and says he won't be joining you anymore, and takes him,
Oh, jeez.
shoves him in a
I hate
closet,
this so much.
not a like little office, but a closet,
Yep.
and basically says, you'll never embarrass me in front of those kids again. Da 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 da. And I felt like, okay, maybe and again, I've seen this movie so many times. I was like, okay. In the universe of this movie, maybe he stops and says, "You're in here. See you later." Closes the door. But he proceeds to take off his jacket and says, "Let's go. Let's fight."
Well, and he's like, you think anyone will believe you?
Yeah, I'm a respected member of this community. People like me here. Da 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 da.
I make 31,000. And
Yeah,
I was like,
it's
ooh.
Well, I think
I
probably
know. We looked down. We're like, ooh,
if
31,000.
you calculated
Then I'm sure it was probably like,
if you calculate
A reasonable amount.
Here we go. Let's do this.
Yeah.
We'll do this. I won't touch my computer because all hell will break loose. 30.
but if you think
you,
that's
you
a
should
principle.
hear it. Maybe after Eric.
30,
Okay.
30. Okay, I can't type apparently. What is 30,000 a year?
I will say, teenage-year-old me would have hit him.
1982. What's today?
Okay, Phil.
I was like, John, do it, man. Like, come
Nah,
on, dude.
he's
Okay,
not like that.
so $30,000. So $30,000 in 1982 in 2024 is $97,897.
Oh my lord.
Aw.
Okay, then it is about right, because I was about to be like, if a principal's making 31,000, then what are the
200%.
teachers? You know, like what are
I
the teachers
know.
making?
Yeah, that's a good question.
Yeah, and that's about what our
Yeah,
administrators in the area make.
that makes sense.
Okay.
Like the high end.
So it's
principals.
about
Yeah.
So it's comparable, which is hilarious that it hasn't really changed. It's still the same.
give us more money.
But it's just crazy how he goes
Pay
from
us
like
more.
threatening him, like when he gets out of high school, to
Right.
like, let's fight right now.
Yeah.
And I'm like, that
Yeah, for no
escalated
reason.
like.
Yeah.
way.
Oh my gosh! And I'm looking. I felt really bad for John in the scene. I looked at Aaron.
Yeah.
I'm like, he's acting like his dad.
Well, and that's what shuts him down. What shuts Bender down is that it's exactly what his dad would do to him, and how his dad would speak to him.
And the part that got to me the most is when he was like, basically like, I'm gonna wait till you're older, and I'm not a principal anymore, and you're not in the school, and I'm gonna come find you, and I'm gonna beat you up.
Yep.
And it's like why?
That was a part where I was like, forget him retiring. He needs to be arrested.
Yeah, because that's assault. Like, you don't have to touch someone
Yep.
to
Yeah.
get charges for assault. That
That's-
is assault.
That's threatening a student under your
Yeah.
care. Like that's inappropriate.
And trying to like get him to fight him. Like I don't know what charge that would be, but it can't. That
Yep. So then Bender sneaks out
Immediately.
doesn't even wait for it. And what I
which
love,
I wonder if that's just part of the trauma that he knows how to get away.
yeah,
I love how like he's telling a joke while walking or crawling through the
Yeah.
vents, and we never hear the end of
we
the
never hear
joke.
the end of the
He
joke.
just falls.
Yeah.
So
So
everybody's like,
he crashes into the library.
Oh lord.
And the principal goes, "What in the room?" And so quickly he like runs into the room and hides under the desk of Claire.
Claire, yeah.
Now, this is where it gets a little bit spicy. So just go with this.
just a little bit, guys.
So he's under the table where Claire is sitting. Claire is wearing, I think, a skirt.
Yes.
And so he sees her particulars, her undergarments, and attempts to like do. I don't know what he's trying to do, but. Okay. No. Sorry, Phil. No.
It's
It is not.
Where?
No, Phil. No.
Sorry.
I need to
Phil.
mark that, I think.
No, I've marked it. No.
Mark it 3 times. I was okay. So what I said when I saw it, it was like
None of those things are going to make it into the edit. So we're clear. I was trying to dance around it. You're just like, nope, doing it. Let's go. Dance on
I'm
the
so
grave of the
sorry.
show.
I'm so
No, you're not. You are not sorry. Oh, Lord, that can never go on air. All right, are we ready to come back to
I
this?
don't know how far
Yeah.
it is my face. I'm trying to
Oh,
recover.
gee golly willikers.
I'll behave.
The point of it is that he tries to like, I think he's trying to mess with her, and she's just like, and so they all make this coughing sound, and like they try and like hide him.
Is that the sound you heard? No,
Yeah, he
that
hit-
was not the sound I heard.
He hits his head on the desk, and they all start pounding on the desk.
And he comes and he says, "There's a ruckus in here. What's the ruckus?"
And I don't know if you noticed, but Andrew keeps looking down, and I'm like, stop looking down.
So it's all kinds of absurdity.
Allison in this scene is hilarious too.
What is she doing?
She's just like going along with it, but she's the look on her face tells us that she doesn't quite know why she's doing it.
Right.
She's just following along.
Yeah. She's just kind of doing. She's looking at everybody. Oh, okay, they're doing this. Okay, well, I'm just gonna do this. So yeah, it's yeah. So then he gets out. Obviously.
Claire beats him up.
Oh yeah, she hits him once he gets out. He's like, "Ah."
Yeah,
I was cheering her on at that point.
Yeah.
I was like, he deserves
deserved
that.
it. Yeah.
He deserved that. So then he asks for the marijuana back, and we then get illicit drug use in our teen movie. It's done in a pretty simple, straightforward way. It's not done inappropriately. Like it's just they were smoking marijuana. What's interesting is it affects our jock the most. Like he's just running like crazy,
Wow.
doing all kinds of jumps and
like
flips
gymnastics.
And, yeah,
and-
full on
It's like
gymnastics.
a full music video.
Yeah.
And
And then he breaks the whole window.
yeah, because he like
He's
yells
like screaming.
"Rah!"
Apparently, John Hughes said that was like his biggest regret from the film. I don't know
Oh, the
why.
the marijuana scene?
Or no, the breaking the glass.
What? I liked it.
I did too.
I think because it's almost too absurd. Like it's pushing that line between believable and the absurdity. Because most of this movie hews pretty close to reality.
Yeah.
But that moment, it's like, no, his voice wouldn't have shattered the window.
No.
But it's funny in the moment.
Yeah.
It works. I get why he wouldn't have liked it.
I guess everyone has to have their screaming moment in this movie.
Yeah.
I feel like everyone gets one almost, except for like Brian and Claire.
I feel like Claire does some pretty good
Yeah.
screaming
You're true. Yeah.
later on.
Yep.
Like when Allison's talking to her.
So now, for some reason, they all start going through each other's stuff.
Yep.
And Allison like calls out Brian. He's like, "This is your name, your address, your
Yeah.
Social security number."
Yeah. And he's like, how do you know that about me? She's like, I pickpocketed your wallet.
You might want to keep up with that.
They can have it back. You don't have anything in it.
Oh, I love this part when he's like, "Why do you have a fake ID?" And he's like, "So I can vote."
Yeah, he's like,
Yeah, how should be 68? Like, what a nerd.
Like, you do not look old enough to be able to.
Right?
Sorry.
Yeah, I'm 68.
So then, so Ringwald and Judd again go some more rounds. They kind of go after each other, and I don't remember what the context of their argument was.
Who was arguing again?
Molly, so our rebel and our princess, or our
Okay, there's one argument. This one kind of got to me when he like sees her earrings. They're like diamond studded.
I think is that this moment now.
Yeah, they go into this deep part. Yes.
Yeah. So he
Yeah.
starts.
We did kind of skip over the basement with the principal and the janitor.
Okay,
Oh,
so
yeah,
yeah.
that's
So
fair.
he does go in, and we think, and I could look it up, but whatever. We're going to go with it. That he was probably looking at students' files,
Yes.
to get a better understanding of what's going on, and the janitor catches him, and he's like, and the principal knows he's in trouble. He's like, well, can we just keep this between? He's like, what'll it take? $50. $50? Yeah, got that. $50. And then later they're like drinking beers down there.
Yeah.
Which
I told Zoe, I was like, I couldn't tell like if it was a beer or like an old Pepsi can.
no, it's beer.
And there's several.
It's
A
yeah.
lot.
They've been
Principal's
putting
like,
them
these
down.
kids have changed these days. Dinner's like, no,
You've
you have
changed.
changed.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And he's like, you just got into it because you it was fun. You didn't actually do it because you wanted to do it. And it
Just like that would never happen today.
yeah.
It didn't make me feel
Any
anything
sympathy
more for him.
Yeah, no.
No.
Because he doesn't
Sorry.
get it. He doesn't accept the criticism. He's just like, well, it's the
Well,
old
and he's drinking on campus.
Yeah.
right. It's
Blah.
hugely illegal. Well, and it's similar to the Simpsons. There's a Principal Skinner is like, well, maybe I am the problem. No, it is the children who are wrong, and that's his thing. It's like it's
Right.
the kids who are wrong. It's their problem. They're the worst. And it's like, yeah, but if you maybe cared a little more, maybe they wouldn't be so mean to you because you actually would show them that you cared.
Yeah.
Real. I love it when he's like, "How would you think of you as a 16-year-old?"
Right.
Like, kind of like putting it back
Yeah,
on
I
him.
like that question.
Yeah.
And I don't think he doesn't even answer it. He's like,
Nah.
well,
He
It's
probably
bad
wouldn't
when
like
you,
himself.
It's bad when you can't picture yourself
Yeah.
in their shoes.
And we don't see him again until like the end of the movie, right?
right.
Which is why they could get away with. I mean, they're playing loud music. and
I think he just kind of like he does his thing and he's not checking on him.
Yeah.
Principal kind of just I think he's probably downstairs doing whatever.
Well, honestly, he just started a student. He needs
He needs
to not
he
see
needs
them for a
time
while.
out, time out for a while.
Yep.
So we get to the bag scene where people are so Ringwald and Judd about the earrings and he cuts deep, and
This got to me.
Yeah.
I have earrings. They're not real diamond studs, but they look like it. And the way that he's taunting her about
Yeah.
it, that kind of got under my skin a little bit.
yeah, he does cross a couple lines when it comes to how mean he is. You're not supposed to like him. Again, in the end, you come around, but he is a secondary, almost antagonist in this
Yeah.
movie because he's rude. He's
And I'm
mean.
looking at this and I'm like, do you like her or not? Like I was
Right.
so baffled by his
Well,
behavior.
okay, so
Zoe.
let's go counselor's corner for a second because I have a question. So he has never really been shown what love looks like, or kindness, or any kind of warmth in his life. Do you think all of a sudden when he looks at her, he feels that like, hey, there's something here that I don't know what to do with, and so I'm just going to fight it, and I'm going to fight her because she represents what I'm feeling because I'm mad at her, but I don't know why, but she's making me feel this way, and I don't like it. That's a lot, right?
That is a lot.
Yeah, because I was just gonna say that. Unfortunately, like hurt people hurt people.
Yeah,
So yeah, like you were saying, he doesn't know anything better or
right.
whatever I was trying to say. But like he he doesn't know how to handle the situation because what he sees at home is,
Right.
I mean, his dad's hitting his mom too, and
Well, and all he
Like-
knows how to do is yell and argue.
Yeah.
And so he's modeling what he knows. The only way he knows how to talk to somebody is to insult them and like verbally abuse them, because that's what he knows how to do, and that's what he has to do at home as defense mechanisms.
Totally.
And so when suddenly someone who might be possibly a good thing in his life and he doesn't know what to do with that, he's like,
he's gonna push it away.
right. And he's gonna be like, I hate that, and I hate you, and your stupid earrings, and it's like, yeah, but you're not really as mean as you were. Like you're getting really petty now, and it doesn't feel like there's a real emotion behind it. You're just trying to make up excuses not to like her or not to show true emotion, because if you show true emotion at home, then you're whatever, you yelled at, you're screamed at, whatever.
Well,
You had a good point. It just went out of my head that you said during this moment.
I was like, he has a lot of animosity towards her
There's
Yeah.
something else.
because like he has nothing and she,
Has everything.
yeah. But
I feel like there was something.
There was a conversation before that, and this was like after the smoking,
Yeah.
and this might be Vicky what you were talking about, but no, because you said it was the earrings. But there he was talking to Claire. This is where they exchange. Everyone's going through each other's stuff,
Yeah.
and Claire has his like wallet type thing and was going through it.
Yeah.
And she's like, "Are all of these your girlfriends?"
Oh, yeah.
And he's like, "Some of them," and then he's like, "The other ones are." What did he say?
Like, I'm considering.
Yeah,
Like,
and I'm considering hanging out
with
with
or
them.
whatever. Yeah.
So that might be a thing. And I love.
Oh, this is what you said. You said that he he thinks that he could never have someone like
Oh
her.
yeah.
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 And
So
that's-
he's gonna keep pushing that away
Right.
because he feels like he doesn't deserve that.
even though she's probably the best thing he's got going
100%.
at the moment.
And we get like the first real conversation with Allison.
Yeah.
Here.
With her compulsive lying.
Her and the jock.
Well, yeah. So they
She's like, "You want to see what's in my bag?" They're like, "No."
no,
And she
just dumps it out anyway.
Like, I want to be known.
And because that's when they talk to her about like her running away.
Yeah.
She's definitely attention seeking because she is consistently ignored by her family, by everyone. Even like the principal doesn't know her name. They don't even really know. I feel like they don't even really know who she is.
Well, I feel like the principal doesn't know her name because of the reason why she's there.
Yeah. What do they say? My home life is what?
Unsatisfying.
Unsatisfying.
Yeah.
And I think they say like everyone's home life is unsatisfying. Like if it was satisfying, we wouldn't be here. Like that was a really kind of cool moment of like, as perfect as they may all seem, and we've kind of been talking about it as we've led up to this, is that they're all struggling. And it's interesting how the criticism of parenting comes back in this movie routinely, because it's always about like in every part of that family, the parents have a piece of this puzzle, a significant piece of this puzzle.
Well, we are 100% influenced by our environment and
Yeah.
the people that we spend time with.
Yeah.
And I guess I might as well say it. There's a point where Andrew goes like, "My God, are we going to be just like our parents?"
Right.
Yeah.
And I think, I don't know, I've definitely had that question when I was a teenager. I don't know if you guys, thought about that too. But
Oh,
just
yeah.
like,
A lot.
how am I going to be like as a parent when I
Yeah.
grow up? And
Yeah. I try to give and take like things I liked about it, things I don't. And Aaron's also been real good about holding me accountable.
So and again, this is not like I was very lucky with my family.
Yeah.
Like my parents stayed together. Like there was stuff that happened. Like there were anger issues early in our family, but my dad and got that figured out, and he went through the process of counseling and things, and came out on the other side of that. And I think a lot of what kind of was like little buttons on this is a lot of the anger in these families was, and this is part of, again, to pull back the curtain a little bit on my relationship, me and Vicky's relationship, but also the relationship we have with our foster daughter. I am not an anger guy, and I have, like, without question, I can tell you, I do have a temper. It was a lot worse 10, 15 years ago. I have come a long way in recognizing that and dealing with that. Because I don't like how it feels. It's that, like, and again, to swerve in and out of the counseling lane. There are certain people whose anger they enjoy. Like there is a certain amount of like, this feels good. I'm angry. Yeah, I'm yelling. Rah, and that feeds into that. I've never ever had that feeling because I'm like, I don't like this. It's uncomfortable.
Yeah.
But there's things about and other families that I've seen where that is a running theme. And so in our relationship, me and Vicki, and again, full clarity, full whatever confession, I've never like yelled at my wife. I've never been like, "Rah!" I've never had that loud sound because I don't want to be like the parents that I've seen where that's just that dynamic happens. And I'm just like, I don't want that legacy. And like even with our foster daughter, I won't raise my voice beyond a certain like, hey, that's not acceptable. Like,
I mean, even when we're in conflict, like you won't stand up.
yeah.
Like if I'm standing up and internet in full confession, sometimes I feel like I egg you on a little bit when I shouldn't. But you never tower over me.
Yep. I just kind of go, okay, what are we gonna do about that? Like I'm just like,
And it's nice I can visually see you being like, I'm gonna hold in my temper, and you do.
Yeah. So it's the thing you say. Yeah, you're absolutely influenced. I think if you're able to be self-reflective or self-aware enough to know when that pattern of behavior that you've learned through either family or friends or environment or wherever you've been the most in, the self-awareness is helpful to say, I don't want to do that again. I don't want to live. And I think a lot of what these characters are talking about is that's their struggle. Like they don't want to be like their parents. They don't want to do what has been done to them to create their quote unquote weirdness or who they are and why they're so broken. Each of them have pieces of them more or less that are broken and need significant work and help. And, the movie wraps it up in a nice bow in the end, but long-term wise, and again, as a counselor, they're going to need some more. There's going to need to be significant.
Oh yeah, that was just the beginning.
Yeah.
Of the self-awareness.
Right. Right.
Sure.
There's a lot more work to be done because they're going to have to go back into those homes. They're going to go back to those families, and this is the weekend, so it's going to be a Saturday, Sunday, and back to school on Monday, and they're going to be coming back out of that experience, having had a taste of what life could be like, and then going back into the rough stuff, and then coming back on Monday, which I think is interesting because they talk about it towards the end. They talk about, are we going to talk to each other on Monday? And it's not certain. They're like, I don't think I could with my friends. Like, you don't understand.
This is the moment where, like, I kind of like, Claire, you're not being a nice person right
now. She does. She loses some points.
I think, just like fair to her, like she definitely was. She was being honest. I feel like
that's where I'm at with Claire.
Yeah.
I'm like, she was being real.
Yeah.
but not that that's like okay.
Yeah,
you
true.
know.
But this sparked like another major like argument between her and John.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, and this is where the brain really tells his story, and
Well, this is when they all say while they're in there, right?
You're not
Yes.
quite. You guys getting close to it, I think.
Andrew starts.
Okay.
Okay. So let's we briefly talked about Emilio and Allie, and he cares. He genuinely wants to know she's okay.
Yeah.
And he leans into her a little bit, and she says, "You just don't talk to me. Walk away."
Yeah, I was at this time. I was like, she kind of mirrors John's response, like
Yeah,
from the
so
lunch
true.
scene.
Yeah. Yeah.
They're both abused.
Yeah.
Hers is more emotional. His is more physical.
Yeah.
She's
Right.
afraid of getting hurt.
It's like, well, I'm trying to open up to you guys, and all you're doing is making fun of all the stuff that I have that I just
Right.
poured out.
Right.
And then I just shared my soul of like feeling ignored and
Yeah.
wanting to run away and go
Anywhere.
to Africa, Afghanistan, wherever.
Right.
I love how like two of those places you don't really want to go to right now.
Accurate.
And even then, it
Probably
wouldn't-
not even then.
Because in
Yeah.
the '80s, Afghanistan was in the middle of the war with the Soviets, so it was a hot mess as it was.
Yeah.
But I think that just shows you how much she wants to get out.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, and she's been ignored for so long that having someone suddenly show interest in her, she's like, "That's not what I want. That's not comfortable. That's weird.
Yeah.
That's not what I need. I don't know what to do with that."
Or I wonder if she wonders if he's genuine. Like,
Yeah.
she's the wallflower.
Yeah.
He's a jock. Like,
Me? Yeah.
So in this, I wrote Allie flippin' Sheedy. She acts her butt off in this movie. There are so many moments just with her look and her eyes and her
Yeah.
expression and the emotion that's loaded. I was just like, this what's interesting, so she confesses that they ignore me at some point, and that hits Emilio's character hard. You can see him kind of just have this moment of realization of what that means for her, but he also understands like there's too much attention paid to him, and he's like almost like, I would love to be ignored. I think he even says that later on, that he would love to be ignored.
Yeah. This is when she's sharing her little lipstick trick. They get into a fight,
Right.
and then Andrew tells his story of why he's there, like his whole story of why he's there.
Yeah, he starts it.
Because he told Allison a little bit, but he didn't tell her the whole truth.
Right.
It's actually worse.
So let's talk through that. Counselor's Corner. Let's go.
Oh, bro. Okay. So what he did was, actually it's one of Brian's friends.
Oh, yeah.
He taped his
Butt.
buttocks
Yeah,
together.
his butt together.
But it was so bad to the point that when they took it off, it actually took off skin and hair, and it really hurt him. So he was definitely bullying him. But
And
what's really sad about it is, like, he did it because he felt like he would be cool to his dad for doing that.
Yeah.
And
Because his dad does not accept any weakness.
right,
It's win, win, win.
he's like, you have to be number one. You always have to win. But then he definitely shows some empathy. I think the guy's name's Larry that he did this to.
Yeah.
He's like, that had to be really humiliating to go home and have to tell your parents like what happened.
Yeah. And I
He
mean,
feels so bad. He doesn't know how to apologize, though.
Yeah.
but he does feel terrible. Like
Yeah.
as he's confessing this, and he's like, this was bad.
Yeah.
And the way that he describes it is worse than when it starts out. And kind of what you referred to is, it's not just like, oh, he just kind of taped him. It was, he held him down. He taped, like it was, and his friends were cheering him on. And this, like you said, it levels up real quick. And as a viewer, as a watcher, you're just kind of, you think, oh, interesting. Okay, funny. Ha. Oh my God, this is awful.
Like, it took skin off.
Yeah.
Well, and it's really bad because I don't remember when, but in the beginning he had mentioned that he gets treated differently because he is an athlete.
Yeah.
So like the fact that he only got
That
one day of detention,
right, for actually physically assaulting someone in that manner means
and
that-
bullying. I mean,
right.
Yeah.
that's like some extreme, like what I would consider like hazing or
Yeah.
something. But yeah, so athletes definitely get treated.
Yeah.
Like he's still gonna get his scholarship to college
Right.
and like all those things, and this poor kid is gonna have to be humiliated forever
Yeah.
and hurt and pain. Yeah.
So they share.
Then Allison tells hers, right? Why she's
Her
there.
little lie first about the shrink.
Yeah, she tells a lie about the quote unquote shrink,
Right.
which is
I felt for you. I'm like, oh no, not again.
was really bad.
And I would just say like guy therapists definitely get a bad rap, like a lot,
Right.
But she's basically using that story to mess with Claire about
to make her tell the truth.
about relationships. Yeah.
Yeah. So what does she shares that allegedly, and it's not. She lies. She
Yeah.
lies about it. She later says that was a lie. I didn't do any of that. But she does it because she wants Claire to tell her story, and so she manipulates it, which is really mean.
I feel bad. This is another point where honestly, I feel really bad for
Well,
Claire.
I think so. Here's the thing: none of these characters like are good in this movie. They end up better. Like we end up getting a pretty good resolution, but none of them are nice to each other.
Yeah, honestly,
There's-
Brian's the nicest of the five.
Yeah, that's yeah.
Well, and because I don't think he knows how to be mean though. And it's similar to like he's kind of like, well, I'm just the nerd. Like I go to clubs and activities and okay.
But he does pop off on Claire. He's like, oh, what does he say? You're
Oh,
conceited.
you're conceited, yeah. But I think that has the truth more because she's like, oh, with you people or whatever, and he's like, you are so conceited.
Oh yeah, that's when they're talking like if they'll hang out on Monday.
Yeah,
or,
Yeah, that was the
my
point.
friends won't know what to do with you or whatever, and he's like, you're so. She's like, but it's the truth, and he's like, yeah, but no.
Yeah, like because you guys look up to us, and it's like, what?
Yeah, that's where
Yeah,
that's
that
where,
was the point where he was just like, okay.
Yeah.
he'd had enough.
Allison also says that she's in detention because she wants to be.
Yeah, she's like, I had nothing better to do.
Nothing better to do. Now, whether or
Fun
not-
fact:
Yeah.
that is why I went to detention.
Yeah.
All my friends were in detention, and I didn't want to go to class without my friends, so I went and hung
In
out
school.
in detention.
Interesting.
suspension, yeah.
Okay, well there you go. There's some
So
insight.
ISS.
Yeah.
in school suspension.
For like
Oh,
Phil chose.
So
in
he
school
didn't need to be there, but
I was in there for freaking being a minute late to class, and anyway,
ridiculous.
so dumb.
But that's when
Yeah.
Brian's story, I feel like, is almost the worst.
Brian's is,
And it makes me cry every time.
I wasn't expecting it.
Yeah.
And just his acting emotions, like, oh my god.
Yeah. So we're talking
Oh,
about.
this is the
we're
point
talk-
where I looked at Aaron with his crying, and I was like, oh, he's such a good actor.
We're talking about the which Brian is Brian the Brain?
Yeah.
Yep.
So yeah, let's walk me through his story, if you can.
Okay, so he took a shop class because he thought it would be easy and, keep his GPA up there.
Yeah.
They had to make like a duck lamp and
No, elephant.
or
Elephant.
an
The
elephant.
elephant.
An
Pull the trunk.
elephant lamp. You pull the trunk and the light comes on, and he's like, "My light didn't come on."
And what I like about that moment is that it's not just like a real, like literal, the light didn't come on, but it's almost as if he's missing something. The light above his head
Yeah.
didn't come on, and that line. I love John Hughes for the layers of lines he used, because you're just like, that could mean so many different things.
And I like Bender's line with this of like,
Yeah, good one.
of course you failed shop because you're smart.
Yeah,
Yeah,
Like, it's a different kind of smart.
yeah.
you're like an engineer, or he says like an engineer and something else, and in my head I'm like, well, engineers build things, but
Yeah, I know. That always didn't work around my head either. I'm like, it's a different kind of skill set.
But this really hurts him because he's never failed in his life. He's like, I can't get enough. My parents can't have, like, they can't know that.
Like I would have a B average. I cannot get out of this.
And I guess the reason he's there is because they found a gun in his locker.
Which-
No, you're not going there yet. What kind of gun it is?
Yeah.
I
As
think
it doesn't matter.
No, it doesn't matter. But what's interesting is the movie, like, it allows that moment to be serious.
Yeah.
Because
Yeah.
they're just like, and it doesn't trivialize it. And even when it's revealed that it was a flare gun, it's not trivialized. I mean, they laugh about it, but the reality of what was going through his head at the time is there was no hope. It was over. He brought a flare gun. He intended to use that flare gun to commit an act upon himself to extinguish his life. And so that moment is allowed to be serious, and we're allowed to understand the why.
Yeah.
We're allowed to understand the pressure he is under to perform. I was not in the International Baccalaureate program in high school when I went to high school, graduated in 2001, but there was an IB program at my school. I can tell you, without having talked to some of the kids who went through that program, it was similar to what Brian experienced. There
So
were
intense.
there
I had a friend
there
like
were
that.
parties on the weekend that I was not invited to because they were benders, because they were overwhelmed with stress and all of it, and there was no other way to release that and to be able to like function in their minds than was to go off and party on the weekends. So I didn't get those invites. I found out like a year or so after. And they're like, yeah, you weren't invited because we knew you'd call the cops on us, or you wouldn't fit in, because we were all trying to cope with the IB program that was on our shoulders. And this is 2001, 2000 IB program. Not, I don't know what the shape is in now, but that was when it was like the gold standard, and it was intense. And I was just like, I don't have that capacity.
Totally.
It was like if you wanted to be anybody, you had to take the IB program. I was just like, what? Okay, whatever. So then it's revealed that it's a flare gun.
Yes.
And
He went off in his locker.
yeah, it went off in his locker, which I think we saw that at some point in the movie. We see the burned locker.
That's what
Yeah,
that
there you go.
was.
And then that kind of brings a parallel to him and John, because John also set something on fire, and that's why he's there.
Yep.
So they both caught something
No,
on
he
fire.
did a false alarm.
Oh yeah, he said
He
he
does
pulled the
light
fire
his,
alarm.
he does light his shoe on
Oh,
fire.
because I just remember hearing something about a fire.
No, he pulled the fire alarm.
Okay.
He pulled the fire alarm. That's why he got in. No, when he was lighting his cigarette, he lit his shoe on fire, and then lit his.
Okay,
Yeah.
gotcha.
Yeah, that was another absurd moment. I'm like, what is okay? All right, I guess that's how we do.
They all
nothing.
do something absurd.
Yep, they
so
do.
that we can't talk about.
Yeah. So yeah, he says it's not that funny, and they're all kind of just laughing at him because it is kind of. I mean, it's funny to them at the moment, and he's like, okay, it is kind of funny. Like he's okay now, obviously.
Yeah.
Like he's fine, ish. But yeah, that was just a moment of like, oh boy. So the song, the dance montage.
Yeah.
I love this song because one of the lyrics, which obviously was intentional, is "We are not alone."
Yeah.
And so for the first time in this whole movie, they're not alone. They're together. They are whatever. And
Zoe actually has a kind of important comment about this scene.
the montage.
Yeah.
What?
About how, like, you called it something like after
Oh. God. Okay. So
Counselor's Corner again.
there is a therapy modality, like it's like somatic therapy.
Okay.
So it's soma means body. So
Yeah.
like within your body. So they had that really deep, they all shared their really deep stuff.
Some very cathartic releases.
And so to me, I thought that was a cute moment because they're like releasing all that pain, like through the body, because we
yeah.
hold like our trauma and feelings.
Yeah. And movement can help.
And especially Miss Allison, she did like exactly what I would
little-
have done with the
Yeah.
doing all this. So I just thought that was a nice little nod.
Okay, so
That's cool.
I'm not
Yeah.
going to look it up because, of course, my computer will
don't
go
look
nuts.
it up.
The Skynet system here will lose its mind.
Let's see.
I wonder if that was intentional
I don't know.
because John Hughes was a smart man.
Yeah.
And he was not lacking for intelligence.
And it would have been something already established.
Yeah.
So
My guess is that he probably either he or someone in the writing room. He was the sole writer, but someone was like, okay, well, how do we? And I mean, you think about it in any kind of movie when you have an emotional moment shared or you have to shift tonally. You have to have
you
some.
gotta break the tension.
You got to break the tension, and so I think that dance scene. And that's, again, when you watch an 80s movie montage or anything about the 80s, this dance scene is routinely, almost obligatory in showing up in the 80s montages.
Yeah.
Because it's cool.
totally.
And it's
I love they start off separately doing their own styles and then they join together.
Yeah. And they're more of a group and stuff like that.
And I
A
think
unit.
it's almost also a release for us
Yeah.
because I mean,
That was intense.
like I was
Yeah.
saying, I was literally like bawling.
Yeah.
And then I'm like, okay, I need this little dance moment.
Right.
To like.
And it allows you to kind of process a little easier. So I think to your point, I think probably John Hughes was at least either aware of it or used it as a natural process in the film to
Yeah.
be like, we need it. But I like how you connected that. I really appreciate because that and for those of you listening out there, obviously, and who have listened before to episodes, Zoe is a licensed school counselor. She is a part of our school staff at our alternative licensure school or alternative education campus. You can get
a
an
whole
alternative
different program
You can get an
that I've
alternative-
done.
Yeah, you
Get
can
my
do the
teaching
alternative
license.
licensure.
Yes.
But like that is a process. Like so for me, example, like I have my own stress and my anxiety, and I have stuff that I deal with on a weekly basis with work and school and working in a building like that. And so before the school year started, I was able to get in like 5 to 10 to 12 miles a day for a couple of days.
Yeah.
So I came into school
Biking. I don't know if you said you bike, right?
riding my bike. Came into school pretty good.
Yeah.
And then I didn't ride my bike for a week and a half, and I was feeling it. Like I was
I was worried
oh
about you a
boy.
little bit.
So I think Thursday night I was supposed to do something, but it got canceled. So I was able to go out at like 5:30
Yeah.
and like ride for like a full hour, and like I came in on Friday, and it was like, okay, I'm ready. It was Liz was in the room on 5th hour, and I'd had some tea already, some black tea that she gave me. And I was really talking exciting and whatever. And one of my students was like, "Are you hyper?" And I was like, "No, yes, but no."
Oh, it's
I s-
old Aaron.
I said I got my exercise, like, and I have some tea, so I'm better because I'm getting that exercise. And so, like yesterday, I rode my bike for another 12 miles.
Yeah.
Like I won't be able to ride it today, but probably Monday I'll probably ride a little bit. But that movement, even again to swerve in and out of counselor's lane. We're not calling it a corner anymore. It's a lane. You have a dedicated counselor's lane.
Okay.
Either the you choose right or left side of the road. It's a 3-lane highway. You get whatever side you want.
Right down the middle.
Yeah, okay, perfect. You're the middle lane. That's where most people need to be anyway.
Yes.
Everyone needs some counseling in their life. Would even regular exercise is a helpful thing to
100%.
make you help balance you out.
Like when you were talking about that, I'm excited for our trip Labor Day so we
Yeah.
can go hiking because that's where
Yes.
I feel most connected and
Yeah.
my self-care too.
Getting out, getting out of town, getting into the mountains,
Nature and
running's a big thing for me.
Absolutely.
But in particular, Aaron remembers this vividly. There was a trip that we took where I wasn't able to run because we were driving through blizzards.
Yeah.
And it was very stressful. And Aaron was talking to me about he would be accountable, and he's just like, I'm not very happy.
Yeah.
Like you need to run. And when I started running, and it was like the next day, like we're in the car and I'm like dancing to the music, and I looked at him, I'm like, I feel like me again, and he just kind of smiled. And it's like, I guess good to have you back.
Yeah.
Well, it's like with me. I mean, mine's not as like was looked as well upon as biking or
Right.
running or hiking.
Right.
But like if I don't get to play like my game for a little bit every day, I don't feel good.
Yeah. Well, it's the same thing with me with writing. Like I have to write creatively at least 15 to 20 minutes minimum a day. If I don't write something, I feel like I'm missing a part of me.
Yeah.
And so between the writing and the exercise, it's like this is now my reality, where I feel good. Like riding that bike, I have no feeling that I can compare it to in 42 years of life of what it feels to just ride down county roads in Fort Morgan.
Yeah, we were talking, and we realized the way that you feel when you get in that mode is the way I feel when I run.
Yeah.
That was kind of a cool moment of being like, oh.
So if you're listening out there and you're like, I don't know what that feels like, well, here's the thing. Start working on figuring out what that might be.
Yeah.
It could be running. It could be skiing. It could be, skiing's expensive. You do you. But like
It could
something.
be like taking a drive.
Yeah, taking a drive.
That's
Like,
another thing for me.
Yeah.
I like when Zoe and I go on drives. And
Yeah.
Like when you and I went to.
Yeah.
I love that.
Yeah.
Or music, which is my thing. It just happens to be my job.
Yeah.
That would totally be my second for sure.
Oh, I
Hiking and
play
music.
I play music in my classroom all day because I need to have music to kind of keep me moving and keep me going. All right, so let's slide out of let's change lanes, probably temporarily because we'll be back in that lane again here in a minute, which is not a bad thing. It sounds like it's not great, but it's good. Okay, so we're not alone. Dance montage.
Oh,
What?
Claire gives Allison a makeup.
Yeah. So this moment.
I did not like this.
What?
I did not. I'm
Okay.
like, you don't need to change her.
Well,
I loved her the way she was. Don't go doll her up like that.
well, there's also, I think I was
Phil has feelings.
He was really upset.
Okay.
I was.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Because to me, it was like you're taking away her identity.
I want to play devil's advocate for a second.
Okay.
Speaking as the mom in the room,
Yes.
like Allison's been through neglect, like her hair's in her eyes.
Yeah.
And Allison got to actually like take care of her and like get it to where she could see. Like,
Right. So there's this. So Phil, I get it because here's the thing. So in this movie, I think it's done well. Now, if you've ever watched She's All That,
Yeah.
so here's this.
Let her have her bushy eyebrows.
Well, the trope is, oh, the ugly duckling turned into the beautiful girl. Here's the problem.
taking off her glasses.
Right. Here's the thing about She's All That. She was already like there was nothing like and there's nothing wrong with Ali Sheedy in this movie, but like they didn't do enough to like. And this is gonna sound really terrible, so just accept it and move on. But like they didn't. No, I can't say that because that would be mean. Like
Just put a mark and tell us that we're curious.
they didn't ugly her up enough. And She's All That. So it's Rachel Lee Cook,
Yeah,
correct? So she's supposed to be like she's the goth, she's the dirt ugly girl, like, and it's like you're gonna have to do a lot more work to ugly up Rachel Lee Cook in that movie because she already looks pretty.
Yeah.
And you just put a hood on her or a hat on her, and then that whole movie makes me angry. That's my reaction to that movie because it's dumb. Because they're like, oh, believe that she's not attractive and she's like an exile or whatever.
She's wearing glasses.
And I'm
no
just
bushy
like,
eyebrows.
Literally.
she's not. Every single like boy in that school would be like, hey, she's pretty cute. Like I'm okay with that. Like wouldn't I? So your anger, it's with She's All That. So Tan's
I love that you agree about that. It makes me
parallel.
so happy.
We
It's
agree.
great.
We also disagree. So what's important, I think, about this? What?
I also think it's dumb too because, like, Andrew
Yeah.
doesn't like make a move until after this happens.
Yeah, but
He shows,
But I think it's
interest in
slowly
her.
building.
He shows interest, but after he sees her like that, he's
Yeah.
like, "Oh, let me kiss your face now."
right.
But I think it's cute because first she looks at Brian.
Yeah.
And he's like you know.
And she says thank you.
Yeah, and she thanks
So here's the
him.
thing.
Well, I want to go on record by saying kind of our Aaron and I's love story, like they're interested in friends, but then there was a certain party where I wore a certain dress,
Yeah.
and that is when you made a move.
Yeah.
So I mean,
that's fair.
So here's the thing.
You dog.
A girl wears a nice dress and I say hi.
Hey, I don't. I mean,
Apparently
I'm not going to get markered again. Okay.
Yeah, once was enough.
We've all
Once
had
was
our
too
marks.
So
many.
I have. Here's the thing, though. Here's what's funny about that. I have never in my life been called a dog or like, oh, you dog, oh, you scoundrel. That's never been like a thing. Like, I'm like, okay. Well,
It's popular slang nowadays.
Oh my god.
It is.
Okay. I feel like we said that back in the
But
day.
it's coming back.
it's
though.
coming back.
Okay.
Apparently, it's
Oh,
coming
no.
back. All right.
Well, that's because they remade all the songs, all the movies.
Yeah.
Yep.
So.
It's all coming back to us now. So it's like Celine Dion. It's all coming back to me now.
Oh, I don't like that song though.
Oh.
I like Celine Dion. I don't like that song.
I do. I like that. It's one of my favorites.
Oh.
Are you trying to annoy me? Are you
No,
serious?
I'm serious. Her vocals are incredible.
You just
And
had-
that song, it builds and builds, and it's like da 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 da. It's great. It's good
Nails
stuff.
on a chalkboard.
Okay, all right. Well,
Give me my heart will go on.
I
There's
now
other
know what I
great
need.
Celine
I
Dion.
know. Now I know what I have to do to annoy you. Just put it
Oh
on.
no.
So do I. You know.
Aaron.
I would never.
Don't even lie though.
I wouldn't. I'm not.
See, I'm the one that likes to push his buttons and annoy him. It's not the other way around.
I don't. I'm not. I don't play games. I'm too straightforward. I'll be like, I'm annoyed with you, but that's not. I don't play tricks. I don't try and do that. I know some like sides of the relationship will do that. Like they'll be like, I'm gonna mess him up. I'm like, oh, look, because here's the thing: you do it once, then they're gonna do it back to you. It just creates this back and forth where you just end up like antagonizing each other. It's like, how long can you go before you're just like, okay, I'm tired.
I know.
A long time apparently because we've known each other a long time.
Do we need to swing into a relationship counseling corner? No. Okay, all right. So let's swerve back into Ali Sheedy's lane. So here's the thing.
I'm hot from laughing so much. Like I am sweaty.
Moving on, because
We're almost done.
anything I say will be inappropriately interpreted. So
Yeah, and you guys got like a hard out here in about 30 minutes, right?
yeah, we've got a thing at 7. Okay, so Ali Sheedy's character, Allison, she says she's alone. No one sees her. She is constantly ignored, constantly forgotten, constantly unseen. And so in this moment, why I stand behind what happens to her, first of all, Molly Ringwald's character is gentle. She is being very kind. Okay, look up. Like, she's not being like, oh, you're terrible, you look awful, you look ugly. And she's like, why are you letting me do this to you? She's like, I don't. What does she say? She says,
Like, why are you doing something nice for me?
yeah, why is
Because you're letting me.
because you're
Yeah,
letting
that's
me.
what she said.
And so it's like, okay, well, that's all it took. But the moment, like, we don't see the full look, right? We see the stuff being applied. But in the back of our heads, we know she's been ignored. She's been forgotten. She's whatever. So when she steps out and we get the new Allison, it is a very, but here's the thing. She's not too pretty, but she's not who she was before. She's beautiful no matter what you say. Like she looks gorgeous with this new look. But her face is seen.
Yeah.
We see her eyes. We see all of that. And again, we've taught at our campus, at our school, we'll have people who, especially guys, who will have hair over their eyes for a while because they're hiding. And you do that even psychologically, where you're trying to like put
And
a hat over.
sometimes girls, I feel like, will cake on makeup too. When they want
Yes.
Yeah. So there's different defense mechanisms in trying to hide and try your true self. She has her hoodie over her head for most of the show, for most of the movie, and all that. But in this moment, she doesn't run away. She stands in front of them and walks confidently forward. And to your point, when Brian looks at her and he just kind of goes, she says not like, oh my gosh, why are you staring at me? She's like, thank you for
Yeah.
seeing me for who I am. And she doesn't say all that, but she says thank you. In that loaded subtext is thank you for seeing me for who I am. And then she gets to Andrew and he says, wow, I think he says, you look different or you look whatever. And she says, is that good or bad? And he's like, it's good. And that moment really solidifies her relationship with him, I think, a lot. And just, I wrote Ali Sheedy. She is like legit. This movie is hers. Like, if I was to pick one actress to be the one all-star of this movie,
Yeah.
Ali Sheedy without question, because everything she does and how she looks and sees, and it blows my mind. And so then they write the letter, whatever, you have you see us.
Oh, but then Bender and
Oh yeah, so
have a
they all
conversation.
leave. So they walk out. So then Bender.
He crawled.
Hold
back
on,
to
hold
the-
on.
Okay, holding on.
Because Claire and they're all together, and Claire's like talking to Brian.
Yeah.
And she's like, like, are you gonna write your paper? And
Oh,
he's like,
yeah.
and he's
like
like,
I
you just
should."
wanted me to write it for all of us. And she's like, well, wouldn't we all say the same thing? Like,
Yeah.
you're the best one to write it for
Yeah.
us. And so he writes the essay
Right.
for all of them.
Which was not 1,000 words.
Right.
No, it
though
was
it didn't
not.
look like 1,000 words at all.
But you didn't need to. I
Right.
think they said it perfectly.
They said it perfectly, and he doesn't stop them.
Yeah.
He lets them go home. So yeah, they go out, and I think it's.
Wait. Bender and Claire have a conversation before they all go out.
Yeah, when John goes back and he crawls back into the
Oh,
Right.
Oh, yeah. And
Yeah.
thank you.
You're
Because I
welcome.
forgot
It's like,
about
we can't
that.
do
and she goes and lets him out.
Yep.
For
But
like,
They
why-
have their little moment.
yeah, she kisses him on the neck, doesn't he?
Yeah, and he's like, "Why'd you do that?"
And she's like, because you wouldn't.
I
I
love
love
that
it.
moment
Yeah.
because it gives her agency, right?
Yes.
It shows
Yeah.
her confidence and how she's grown throughout this like 9-hour day.
Yeah.
Where she now feels like I can do this versus him doing it. And I think in reality, all those pictures he had, I'm not sure he's as a confident a player as he thinks
Oh,
he
yeah,
is.
no.
I think they're
How hard he played. I'm hoping I can say this.
Go.
The virgin thing
yeah,
with her.
Yeah.
I think he's a virgin too.
Right, I
Just
don't-
for how hard he kept hitting that.
Yeah, because he kept talking about it.
Yeah.
And he didn't, yeah. So that's also possible. I mean, again, because we don't get verification of his story.
Right.
For the most of all the other characters, we get okay, it's true, this is real.
Or even his friends. Do you think he really has friends?
That's the question.
I really don't know.
That's the question because none of them are there with him.
And how defensive he is about, like, you don't even look at them, you don't talk to them. And I'm like,
Yeah, does he really have them?
Yeah.
They know him by reputation only. They don't know him
Right.
by anything else other than that. So then, so she kisses him on the neck. Yes.
Oh, and this is
the
where.
lipstick thing. Yeah. You got to talk about it.
Oh, well, you do the lipstick thing. I was. Oh God, do something else. Sorry, I got excited.
Go ahead, Vicky.
So
Oh my gosh.
she did this trick. There's-
All kinds of excitement.
Chaos in the podcast
Sorry.
studio.
So previously, Claire did this little trick where she like puts her lipstick on without using her hands.
Yeah.
And Bender like makes fun of her. Doesn't seem that impressed, but she asks him, "He's like, did you really think that was dumb?" And he's like, "Truth?" Like, yeah. Like, no.
Yeah.
So that's my thought. Okay, what's yours?
But then. I don't know. Remember like more of the context, but he's kind of like saying like, "Wouldn't I be the great person?" Oh. Because of her
Yeah.
parents, he's
Yeah.
like, "Wouldn't I be the great thing to fight over it?" Like,
Yeah.
have them fight over.
And he kisses her out in front of them.
Yeah, and she gives him the diamond
Yep.
earring.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That he puts it in.
He puts it in his ear. So she gets in the car. There's not really a discussion as they drive off. And then our Jock and
Allison.
they
have their little
they
kissing
kiss.
moment.
And
Yeah,
what's interesting is
sweet
she
kiss.
gets in her car, he gets in his, and Dad kind of looks at him, doesn't say anything,
Yeah.
and it's just kind of like, what just happened to my guy? Okay, moving on. Like,
Yeah.
we're on. But he's kind of like, okay, something's going on, because obviously his son hasn't been dating anybody,
Right.
And so he's like, oh, my son's maybe got some game going on. Okay, interesting. So they all drive off, and then
We have our iconic.
I kind of fist to the, and so yeah, that's Judd Apatow, and he's kind of walking, and he has the ring, and don't you forget about me, and so yeah, and that's the end.
That is the end.
That is the Breakfast Club.
Which apparently there is a Breakfast Club podcast now.
Oh really?
Yeah, it's Charlemagne. It's hip hop based,
Okay.
and
Okay.
yeah,
Okay. Well,
Just throwing it out there.
somebody else
had nothing, totally unrelated to this movie.
Yeah, like it. Yeah.
Oh, it's just called the Breakfast
But
Club.
when we were looking it up on YouTube, we found the podcast and we're like, what?
What?
That's weird.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Okay. That's fair
So
enough.
I knew that would happen anyways because I've heard of the podcast before.
Oh, okay.
Right. Well, there we have it. I guess we'll talk about how do we want to rate this one. I have a feeling we're all going to be pretty united on this one.
I think so.
We'll start with Phil.
9.
9. Okay. Why a
Why a
9?
9?
She was more accusing than I was, to be clear.
Because to me, it's not a perfect movie. Like it's not like it's great. It's very perfect for like psychology and stuff like that, which is why I'm sure they made you study it and write a paper on it.
Yeah, I couldn't find it because I was going to bring that. And I don't really remember what I wrote either. So
Okay. That's
I
fair.
just I'm getting tired of the cliche endings where every we didn't need everyone to have a girlfriend at the end of the movie.
Oh, Brian didn't get a girlfriend.
Yeah.
He wrote a
Well,
paper.
that makes it worse. And he did the homework.
Hey, he's always gotten the girl. Come on.
Yeah, it's the one movie he didn't get the girl.
Yeah.
He
And he had
Claire
braces.
were like dating in real life during the filming of this movie.
Yeah.
If that helps.
Cool. All right.
Still a
Still a
9.
9.
Okay.
All right. Vicki, what do you think?
Like 10.
Yeah.
10 out of 10.
Yeah. I would say 10 out. Here's the thing.
Why
10
is this reminding me, sorry, of Godzilla -1 a little bit.
A little bit. A little
This is a
bit.
relationship thing still.
So, it's one of those movies that I think as a high schooler, you watch it and you take stuff out of it, but then you watch it as an adult and you take so much more.
Yeah.
Because you reflect on your own life and the life you've led and the experiences and relationships you've had, and it means it hits different, to borrow that phrase. And I think that's good. Like, you want a movie to change as you watch it over time. Yes.
I think it's really, I don't know, deeper for me on a
Okay.
on a level, just because like I had a group of friends that we literally would have breakfast every Saturday together,
Oh, okay.
and we did kind of call each other the Breakfast
Club?
Club.
Okay.
So, oh my God, why am I crying? So I don't know. I just thought of that, and I was like, wow, that's probably why I have such like a deep connection
Yeah.
to it.
Well, and I think everyone has, like, Phil's movie is Grave of the Fireflies, which, good mention. If you're listening to the
Oh,
program.
yeah. Thank you for.
You're welcome.
Yes, good
I'm
call.
here to
I
help.
forgot.
I remembered it for once.
September 16th.
Yep, it's going to be on
Breaking
Netflix. It's coming back into the world of publishing.
Yay.
So I'm sure that it'll be pirated beyond belief at that point. So there'll be all kinds of
Watch it while you can.
Yeah.
Watch it.
Go on to your Netflix September what?
16th.
September 16th.
That's not far.
Grave of the Fireflies. It is an absolute must-watch.
Yes.
If you're listening to this podcast right now and you're like, oh, I don't know, go back and listen to our podcast about it if you want to get spoiled, but you need to put it on your list for September 16th, like 6 a.m. when it goes online. You call in sick to work and be like, I can't come in. I got to watch Grave of the Fireflies.
No,
Karen.
don't.
Do not lose your
I
job.
love the movie and I don't recommend that.
Well, I had to be extreme in my recommendation. But when you
It's
get...
like the kids saying, "Are you hyper?"
No, I'm passionate about these things.
Yes.
Honestly, I'll probably rewatch it.
It's a good movie. It's worth it. And definitely watching on Netflix will be a different experience.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's...
Ooh, is it dubbed?
Ooh, that's a
I
question.
know.
We'll find out September 16th.
Okay.
We'll have an update when it hits. So yeah, this movie is just classic. It's a good, like, you can't, and yes, 9 out of 10 because of everyone. But here's the thing: in the 80s, I think the 80s set that precedence for movies to end up with everyone happy, and I think that's, yeah. So that
I mean, there's nothing wrong with it. It's just,
Yeah.
it's just kind of like
right. It's a self-contained
cliche.
story. Yeah,
But you also got to think of how tortured and like their lives weren't that great before, and then now they get to have this wonderful.
right.
And you also needed to think that this was my first time seeing it.
Okay.
Phil's defending his 9.0.
Because I was getting excited through the whole thing, like telling them things.
You were
and, like,
spoiling a lot of it for me. Oh, you're not gonna like this guy. Oh, but wait till this happens.
So in Phil's defense, this is not telling tales out of school, I don't think too much. But Vicki, sometimes you will comment as things are happening on the screen,
Yeah.
and so Phil, I share sort of a parallel struggle with you.
It's a girl thing.
I guess.
Yeah, I think it probably is, because and oftentimes, sometimes, like very rarely in a movie you do it, but I'm just like, quiet, stop talking.
I know. I figure if you don't tell me, it's not bugging you too
Yeah,
much.
I won't answer. I'm like, I'm watching that movie. Leave me alone.
Well, like I'll make a comment about something, and Zoe will be like, "No, just wait."
And here's the thing: I've known her long enough that I know that tone. I know exactly how that
At
sounds.
one point, I asked her. I was like, "You just want to tell me the movie?"
I mean, I could. But
She's like, well, how much time we got?
What's funny about Aaron is he likes spoilers. He doesn't.
yeah,
Like,
I'll-
you don't like to be surprised. So
Yeah.
you're like, please just tell me what happens.
Yeah.
And he actually wants to know. I'm
well,
like,
he
"All right,
annoys me
well."
because he kept getting up every 5 seconds. I'm like, tell me what happened. And he couldn't. And I was like,
That was one time.
No, that was multiple times.
You're peeking in the mic.
I'm sorry.
We've suddenly shifted to ASMR. Thanks. Yeah. Oh no.
No.
That was uncomfortable immediately. I regret everything I just said.
You had to have your one moment.
That's the start and the finish of ASMR.
Change the subject and talk
Nerds
about
by
what movie
Screenlight.
we're doing next.
Yeah, what movie?
Not
Nerds by
ASMR.
Screenlight.
No.
I can do the voice too.
It's Aaron and Phil ASMR time. Yeah.
Need something to throw.
Accurate.
There you go.
Okay, don't. If you hit something and
No,
it breaks, Don't do it.
Don't keep doing the voice.
No violence.
You won't be tempted.
Don't choose-
It's just a pillow.
Don't choose violence today. All right. Speaking of not violence, okay. So the movie that I would recommend to us watch, because it is one of my, I almost want to say it's a 10 out of 10 because I love it so much.
Yeah.
But it's Pretty in Pink.
Okay,
Have you ever seen Pretty in Pink?
I have.
Okay.
have not.
Do you not want Pretty in Pink?
I'll rewatch it.
Okay. Is
I've
it-
only watched it once, and I felt like it wasn't her best, but I will watch it again.
So it's Molly Ringwald.
Yeah.
And it's John Cryer, a very young John Cryer. And then it's not Anthony Michael Hall. It's who's the guy in James Spader, of all people, a very young James
Yes.
Spader. And it's a weird little movie.
It is, yes.
Because it swerves.
Yes.
Because John Cryer is supposed to be the love interest, and we think that he's going to get the girl, but he doesn't. He gets a girl in the end, but Molly Ringwald and James Spader actually are the ones that get together.
I'm curious. Well, you might not know this, but did it come out after The Breakfast Club?
Probably.
Because honestly, I get that vibe from her in this movie, like a little bit. With her
Yeah,
little-
so I could actually probably tell you.
I've never seen Pretty in Pink, so that'd be different.
But it's been a long time, so I will give it another chance.
Pretty in Pink is 1986.
Okay.
Breakfast Club is 1985.
Okay, so it is the next one.
And I don't think. I'm trying to figure out who the director of Pretty in Pink was. Oh, Howard Deutsch, I think is who it was. So it wasn't John Hughes, interestingly enough. Okay. Annie Potts is in this movie as well. She plays the friend. Okay, well, we might do Pretty in Pink. Zoe's reaction.
It's been a long time,
I
so.
thought you were going to say Ferris Bueller's Day Off.
Me too, actually.
Here's the thing about Ferris Bueller's Day Off. And you can all tell me I'm wrong, and it's fine, and I'll accept defeat. But it's been so overdone.
Bueller.
Like I
need to see the dance move of the guy, you know.
I would watch it. I'm not sure if a podcast is like if it's worth it, you know, because everyone's seen it. It is so
That's true.
not overblown, but it's so been done so much. It's like, let's pick something that's different and not going to be.
I really wanted us to do Uncle Buck. Because that's one of my favorite.
That's a good idea.
So maybe let's do that. Let's do Uncle Buck because we have watched that recently.
Yes.
And it is
Yeah, it's on Netflix, I think.
yeah, it's an
and
absolute.
we laughed and laughed. It was great.
It's a good movie. John Candy is a prince among men in this movie.
And it has our Macaulay Culkin, too. Young.
Yes.
Right.
Before Home Alone, I think. So,
Yeah,
all right,
he's a
we'll do Uncle Buck. So Uncle Buck's on the list. Pretty in Pink at some point down the
Yes,
road.
I will rewatch it.
Okay. Phil, do you have any movies you want to put in the bucket here?
Yeah, I have two. I would like to do Beverly Hills Ninja.
Oh, yes.
I love that movie, too.
And then, because my grandfather passed away recently,
Yep.
I would like to do, in memory of him, 50 Goes West.
I've never seen that.
Oh, yes. Okay, so
Let the saliva flow.
Oh, I guess I'm the only one that hasn't seen that movie.
Oh, you have
Lazy
to.
Eye.
so is that you're saying Five Goes West, not American Tail?
American Tale,
It's
50
a
Goes
sequel.
West.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So
it's a sequel.
So okay, yeah. So here's a funny story. We watched the original American Tail,
On our honeymoon.
and I hated it
I agree.
because it's so dumb. Like the decisions that are made.
He's like, he doesn't listen to anybody.
The
It's so
only
frustrating.
thing that I like about that movie is the Somewhere Out There song.
Yeah, and there's
Yeah.
no cats in America.
And yeah, and it's also, the Somewhere Out There is also in 50 Goes West.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Mm-hmm.
I would be down for Five Goes West. I actually have the soundtrack on Spotify that I put it on my love playlist. 'cause
That's
I like it so
right.
much. Okay. So anybody any other movies you need to put in the hopper?
So yeah, Beverly Hills Ninja, 50
Yep.
Goes West,
Yep.
Pretty in Pink,
Yep.
Uncle Buck.
Uncle Buck.
Uncle Buck.
So he's very firm.
We're doing that one next, right?
Yep.
Uncle Buck.
Uncle Buck is next week. Okay. At some point, we need to put Tommy Boy and Black Sheep in the
Tommy
mix.
Boy.
Oh, that laugh is scary.
It's David Spade and Chris Farley both in those movies.
Oh, no, I'm scary. Have you
And-
seen this?
Yes. Oh, so which one is? So Tommy Boy is where he's on the road trying to sell brake pads, right?
I think so.
Yeah. Tommy Boy. I think Tommy Boy's better than Black Sheep.
I
What
should
about
have
Blues
known.
Brothers, Aaron?
Wow. We haven't done Blues Brothers.
I should have known that you would have picked an animated movie.
Yeah. Five Goes West.
Okay, so the story about 50 Goes West.
It's great. No, it's good.
When I was really little, I mean tiny,
Yeah.
I used to fall asleep watching this movie at my grandparents' house,
Okay.
laying on my grandfather's tummy.
Aw.
His whole tummy was my bed,
Aw.
and my grandma would scratch my back.
Aw.
And so I just, for some reason, whenever I think of my grandpa, I think of that movie, and also his love for like Daniel Boone, Davy Crockett, MASH, which
MASH is a good show
It is.
Yeah.
I
We
love
have it.
MASH.
We have all the seasons.
on DVD. So, all right, well, there we go. You've gotten more than enough of us. You have gotten 2 hours and 17 minutes
That's
of
got
us.
to be a new record.
no, we don't, because you cut out like a good.
Yeah, there's about 5 minutes of nope.
I'm sorry, I really am.
It's fine.
Intrusive thoughts invaded.
You didn't even hold back. You're just like, bleh.
No, that happens sometimes. It
Okay.
was like immediately from brain to mouth and out.
I haven't laughed that hard in a while. That was
That's true.
And for
What
you
was
listening, you don't get to hear it because it
No,
was
you don't.
not
It was
appropriate.
not appropriate.
but it was funny.
Not appropriate for a school club podcast.
It's a
No.
secret.
It's a secret episode, secret
It's
cutting
a-
room floor.
As in Legend of Zelda, it is a secret to everyone.
Yeah, secret.
And
to-
if you pay for our membership,
yeah,
Now that's intrusive thoughts.
Patreon.
find us on Patreon. So, if this was not a school connected podcast, if we had built this like outside of the school and on my own personal stuff, I might have considered doing something like that as like,
Sure.
hey, support us, sponsor us.
Yeah.
Like, well, that'll help pay us.
Yeah, the director's cut.
Yeah,
episodes.
you can have that, but because we're under the school, those cutting room floor stuff just deleted and gone forever. Maybe someday in the 20 years after this is all, we'll revisit it when we're all retired and not working in the school district, which probably be 30 years for us, right? More or less.
at least.
40 years, and by that point, who knows if podcasts will exist?
Oh God,
Yeah.
that's true.
The dustbin of history will be our podcast. Who knows? We'll see. That was a really
That was
sad
dark.
ending.
That was very dark.
That was brutal. Our podcast will live forever, and no one will forget our names.
Forget about us.
Oh, don't you?
I thought that would make it better.
Oh,
It did
yeah.
not.
No, it did not. It didn't. It made it
It's
worse.
like it did with music. No.
No. All right. My name is Aaron.
I am Phil.
I'm Vicki.
And I'm Zoe.
And that has been Nerds by Screenlight. Thanks for sticking with us for 2 hours and some odd minutes. We'll catch you on the next one. Thanks for listening.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
The raspberry flap of ours will be out in a moment. The kitchen is closed.
You've been listening to the Nerds by Screenlight podcast, presented by Create at Morgan Productions, located in Fort Morgan, Colorado, USA. For more information on our production house, other podcasts hosted here, and further details, please visit www.createatmorgan.org. You can find us on Twitter at the handle CreateAtMorgan. Create at Morgan is a school club at Lincoln High School, our alternative education campus in Morgan County. Our sponsor is Aaron DeLay, a language arts teacher at Lincoln. Send any feedback to adelayedteacher@gmail.com. Thank you for listening to our podcast.